What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Ian Wendt Show. Super excited for this episode. I have a very special guest, and I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself to you guys.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
My name is Isaac Payne. I live here in Rexburg, Idaho, but I grew up in a very rural town in Alaska.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I grew
Dude,
up.
Alaska's one of the only two states I've never been to.
Oh, you should go.
I know. To this day, I'm like, I don't know why I've never been there.
Yeah, I grew up it's about 100 miles south of Fairbanks, Alaska.
Okay.
If anybody's familiar, but there's not much there. It's called Delta Junction. It's literally the end of the Alaska Highway.
Okay.
It's a town of, I don't know, maybe 1,000 people.
Yeah.
But that's where I grew up.
How far from like Anchorage, Kodiak, like what are...
That's the funny part about Alaska. Like even by Idaho terms, it's massive. So
Yeah.
like driving to Anchorage, which you can drive from where I grew up to Anchorage,
Right.
but that's going to be an 8-9 hour drive.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's honestly kind of like, so I'm from upstate New York.
Okay.
And anytime I tell people that, they're like, oh, they just assume it's a city, right?
Right.
Because it's kind of like New York is just this big city. What they don't realize
actually,
is
there's farms there, you know?
yeah, well, what they don't realize is the city is like the very, very southern tip. And then there's like 8 hours of just nothing, just country.
Right.
I mean, it's beautiful, but just straight country for, so that makes sense. All right, cool.
But yeah, grew up there. I left there to serve an LDS mission.
Okay.
Lived a couple years in North Carolina, which I absolutely love.
Oh,
Still love
awesome.
North Carolina.
I just got back from there, dude. West North Carolina, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then came to Rexburg for school, met the love of my life, finished school. I got to the end of my bachelor's degree and I earned my way through that, paid for it via working law enforcement. They paid for my degree via paychecks. And then at the end of my degree, I just kind of reached this impasse where it's like, man, there's a lot of talk in class about different things. And I feel very hypocritical only talking about things, which led me to join the Air Force. So I joined the Air Force, did that for a few years, got out, went back to law enforcement, and did that up until about 2 years ago. And during the midst of all this, I've always trained martial arts. Like my whole life, I consider wrestling my first martial art when I was like 10 years old, but I've always done martial arts. My biggest love amongst Muay Thai, boxing, Krav Maga, those are ones that I've all done, but I love Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu is my absolute favorite, probably because of the culture and the spirit of it.
I was just going to ask you why, like, what is it? Because you did Muay Thai too?
I've done it a lot of
Dude,
them. I love Muay Thai.
So I knew a buddy of mine, that I knew back in, this was like 2017, 18. Brian Blakely. He's in Utah. Brian, if you're listening to this, shout out to you. But I can't remember, his record was like 26-0 or something like that.
Yeah.
And dude, we trained with him, me and my buddy, like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times. And it's dude, so he would have us hold the bag and then he would kick the bag. And
Mind blowing, right?
I have never felt more power in my life physically. Like, it was crazy. And what's even crazier is he would tell us, I'm only kicking at like 40%.
Yeah.
I'm like, I cannot imagine eating this guy's foot at 100%. Like, you would, I'm like, how do you live?
It was my favorite, like,
it's crazy.
It was like my favorite kind of threat as a cop, because I've never hit a single person with a baton in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I've never done it, but I said, hey, stop, or I'm going to kick you in the leg. And they're like, what? And they kind of give me this confused look and then kick them in the leg. And then
Yeah, they're done.
The fight is done.
That's it. They're no longer walking.
And if you don't know, you're like, kidding, kicking.
Yeah, like if you guys don't understand what we're talking about here, Muay Thai is a type of fighting that's like, it's basically kickboxing, right?
Yeah.
Like ultimately it's kickboxing, but we're talking like these kicks are insane, dude. It's like you're getting hit by a truck.
Yeah, that's a great description. Like a vehicle just hits you.
Wild, man. That's really cool though. So it's the culture that you like most about jiu-jitsu.
Most about jiu-jitsu. To me, it's so very cool to have like this ex-drug addict and a cop and a veteran, and they're all sitting there on a mat together, and they're talking and they're training and they're drilling, and everybody's cool.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. And to me, that's hard to even replicate.
When you say nobody cares, what do you mean by that?
Nobody cares where you're from. They don't care how much money you make.
Yeah.
They don't care even what language you speak half the time. Like half the people I train with, like they don't even speak the same language as me. I went to New York and trained with some Dagestanians, and they didn't speak a lot of English. They were fresh off the boat, and like nobody cared.
But jiu-jitsu is kind of its own
kind
language.
of its own language.
That's
yeah.
cool.
So
That's
you
really
get to
cool.
Share something, because me and that person might not have much else in common, but we have that, and we can talk about that for hours. And then there's all these underlying lessons in jiu-jitsu that reflect on life, and vice versa. And it drives my wife crazy because we'll be talking about something in church, or there's somebody will be sharing something. Like,
You'll bring up
and
jiu-jitsu.
I'll be like, it's like jiu-jitsu. And she's like, shut up.
That's awesome. So we'll get into this. We'll get into jiu-jitsu because I for sure. I told you I just had Greg Anderson on, and he's big in jiu-jitsu too. And it's funny because I feel like I'm just being called to finally get on the mats. But I was telling him, I'll tell you, my son started because he is me times 100 when I was his age, and it's been a nightmare, dude. Like, he just no discipline. I mean, it's been rough, and so we put him in jiu-jitsu hoping that would be like something that would kind of, you know, teach him some discipline and calm down. He's done a lot better, and it's definitely created some structure. But I mean, even today, like my wife texted me, he's like, Miles got kicked out of class again. I'm like, and it's funny, dude, because he's not doing anything crazy. He's just very silly and very like, he just doesn't listen. He just kind of like does his own thing. He's very like spacey. And even when you tell him to do something, he's just like, okay. Like, it's just very all over the place. And it's,
dude, but I love teaching kids, and I love teaching kids for that reason, because I'm kind of a goofy person, and I like sitting there and telling dad jokes with kids, and they just have a lighted heartedness about them that makes things fun. Like, that, I don't know, gets lost with adults. They take themselves way too seriously. The kids,
this guy
kids
is
can kind of goof off.
Yeah, this teacher
sometimes it's bad, and like I feel like there should be another adult in the room. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a giant kid most of the time. But.
Yeah, I mean, like I appreciate, like when I see the coach working with him and everything, I appreciate him trying to like rein him in and stuff. Sometimes though, I'm kind of like, he's not gonna listen to you, dude.
No, because
like he's a kid, man. Like,
let him be a kid.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We could probably talk about that forever. But all right, before we get into this though, I always give my guests a gift. So gifts. So go ahead and grab that black bag right there, and I'll walk you through what's in there.
Okay.
So obviously, you know, now I own a business called Official Patriot Gear. We are a patriotic apparel company, but more than that, it's very much like what we were talking about, and I'm sure what we're going to talk about in this, which is like, the idea is patriotism's not partisan. The whole purpose of this brand is to remind people that patriotism is not exclusive to a group or a race or religion, and it doesn't have a political party. It's just love of country, love of people, and the willingness to defend it.
I think that's the perfect description.
I mean, that's what it is, right? Yeah. Like, and so I've spent the last 5 years of my life building this brand and trying to get people to realize that and share it and continue to emulate it. So yeah, reach in there and
all right.
Let's see what you pull out there.
Oh,
okay, so that's just our performance hat.
Dude, I love this
OPG
material.
performance hat. Yeah, it's high quality, man. It's kind of like I don't know if you've ever worn a melon hat.
Yeah.
It's kind of like those. It's not the same quality. Definitely not going to be like waterproof, but yeah, it's really breathable, really comfy. I was going to say, I thought that would be one that you would rather have than the other ones.
For sure.
You can sweat in that, and the cool thing is you won't get sweat rings, and it won't get like discolored.
Plus, I have no hair, so like I won't burn my head. When
I'm there you go. Yeah. So.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then that's the OG Patriot tee. So that's the first T-shirt, started this whole thing.
Dude, I keep seeing more and more of these.
It's cool, man. Like, especially in Rexburg. Yeah, we're starting to see them everywhere. So everybody's got to have one of those, you know?
Yes.
If you wear anything from the brand, the OG Patriot tee is where you start. So I give all you guys that T-shirt. Yeah. There's a few other things in there.
Okay. So we got.
I'm assuming you shoot guns.
Yes, sir.
So we have something called the Mag Club. Every single month we do a different mag. Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt, exactly.
Super cool.
So every mag has something to do with the month that it comes out in. So like, for example, I can show you this one really quick. I'll reach out and grab this.
Cool.
So like, this is the Boston Massacre. This was marches, because that's when the Boston Massacre, right? And it comes with a T-shirt and stickers, and it always has a meaning behind it. And that's brilliant. A lot of different things, because I'm kind of a history buff.
I can tell.
I love history, dude. And it's funny because I've always been into history, but like as I've like gotten older, it's times 10. I mean, I
It
love.
just seems to have more and more relevance, right?
Yeah. I'll say we'll get into that, but yeah. So anyway, that's what those mags are. It's just and
cool.
it's Magpul. It's just a P mag, so it'll
it's beautiful.
AR-15, 223, 5.56, and then you can actually run 300 blackout through it too.
Nice.
Yeah,
sick, dude.
So
Nice.
yeah, man. And then I think the last thing in there is First Form meat stick. Those are the best meat sticks you'll ever have, dude. They're so good. And First Form's a company I work with and have worked with for a few years now.
I worked with First Form once.
Oh, really?
Because there's a jiu-jitsu competition in Vegas that I go to every summer.
Oh, yeah.
And they sponsored a team.
Okay.
So we can get into that too later if you want.
Wait, so when was that?
That was last year.
Was Madot there by chance?
I don't know. There were a lot of people there.
Shout out Madot.
Yeah.
So Madot is one of the guys. He does a lot of their like marketing and design and stuff. But he's a fighter, and every time I turn around,
designed that kit.
Every time I turn around on his stories, on his Instagram stories, he's winning the gold every single time.
So I was just there to coach, but like all the competitors got a kit.
Yeah.
Like shorts and a rash guard to compete in.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is dope. And a set of that might have disappeared into my bag. I'm just saying. It might be at my house right now.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I'm First Form's been something cool. It's been it's actually changed my life in a lot of ways. The people there, Andy Frisilla, he's become kind of like a non-hired mentor just in business and everything, and always been a good friend and really taken care of me and my family. And so try my best to get it out there. We have First Responder Tuesday every Tuesday, and we give out First Form energy and meat sticks and protein bars and stuff. So yeah.
Well, thank you for the
You're welcome,
gifts.
man.
Those
You're
are very
welcome.
sweet.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for coming and doing this episode. So
of course.
Well, let's jump in. So all right. So I want to dive into first I want to dive into your Air Force. You said you worked there. So what was what did you do?
And I know it's changed.
Sure.
But back then it was, my MOS was a 1 November 4, 1 and 4, was a network intelligence analyst.
Oh, okay.
Which I never intended on doing. Like when I went to MEPS and everything like that, I was like, I'm going to get like a air traffic controller job or something. One of these jobs that translates well to civilian life later. I'm like, that's the ticket. That's the ticket.
Yeah.
And I took my ASVAB and they're like, no. And so they ushered me into these Intel options, and I didn't know what was what from any of them.
Yeah.
I was like, well, network intelligence, let's try that. Which I don't know if you're familiar with Intel school. That's like a year-long school. And
it sounds like a school that I would never have gone to.
It's got
because
like an 80% washout rate.
Dude,
it's ridiculous. And every week is a 4-hour test.
You're the guy that would help me through high school because I'd cheat on your paper.
That's the ironic
off your
part.
papers, dude.
I was like not that great at school in high school. I'm like, I don't know how that happened, but like that's the joke in Intel. It's a job description, not a job requirement. But it's interesting because you think of like these scholastic people that you'd think would be in Intel. And it's a little bit different thing that they're looking for. They're looking for people that can abstractly solve problems.
Okay.
Can you creatively think of a way to think outside the box and solve this thing? So in downtime in Intel, when they don't have a mission or something to do, they give them puzzles to do.
No way.
Yeah.
What kind of puzzles?
Any puzzle. Like we can do word puzzles. We can do Sudoku. Anything you want, we'll do a puzzle.
So you can do a Rubik's Cube.
I actually suck at that one. Like I'm terrible at that one. But most other puzzles I have a lot of fun with.
I bring up the Rubik's Cube because this was probably a few months ago. I found this random video online that was like, oh, the Rubik's Cube is super easy. All you have to do is these 4 movements over and over and over.
Right?
Yeah, guess what? It's bullcrap, dude.
Is it?
Oh, it's such bullcrap. There's no way that's true because I did it so many times and I did it perfectly and it never worked. And I was like, these people are getting me.
Debunked.
Yeah, it was terrible. So that's interesting. So they just give them a bunch of puzzles because they want them continually trying to figure out how to solve it.
Now there's several skill sets within Intel. There's linguists and there's image and there's drone pilots and all that stuff. And I think since what they've done, and it probably makes a lot of sense to do, is compartmentalize it down to even more specific skill sets.
Yeah.
Which would make it easier to train.
Oh, for sure.
Because we could do anything from like do a briefing to planning a mission. It was all over the place. So it makes sense over time that that's the direction that
you hyper specify on that exact.
Then you can be a specialist.
Yeah. Okay.
But honestly, like I think my favorite people to hang out with in that world were something called spinstras. which is special weapons and instruments.
Oh yeah, that sounds.
They're
like
the
fun.
nerds of the nerds, like super nerds. Like you walk down their hallways, they're like, don't enter here without a lead apron. Don't enter here without eye protection. You're like, I don't know what you're doing in there. But they were the coolest dudes to hang out with.
They're doing
outside
stuff
of
that
work.
normally would be illegal,
Right?
But it's not
right.
because they're doing it for the military.
So we're sitting there in our barracks one day, and we dismantled a PlayStation, and we took the blue laser out, and we hooked it up to the power grid of the base. We burned through 2 walls, set a fire, and knocked the power out to the entire base
with a PlayStation
with
laser.
A PlayStation.
You gotta be kidding me, dude.
It was
what just like an old PlayStation?
Yeah, like your first gen.
No
PlayStation.
way.
Yeah, that's a perfectly good blue laser.
And people don't think that we have high-powered lasers in the military,
right?
These guys are building them out of PlayStations.
This is what they do for fun. Like we went out to our flight line. We built like this kite. We built a kite. It was probably like 20 feet across.
Yeah,
it was huge. And so like a bunch of us sit on the flight line because like we sent one dude out there to fly it. And these are the smartest people in the military, mind you. We sent one dude out to fly it. And we all sat there and watched as he got lifted like 50 feet in the air and then slammed on a flight line and broke his arm and his collarbone. And like,
oh no.
We get called. We're all like lined up in our flight chief's office, and he's just chewing us out for a good couple minutes. And he stops because he's like red in the face and out of breath. He's like, well, what do you have to say for yourself? I'm like, couldn't think of anything else. I'm like, sir, it is what it is. It's like it's a giant kite today. You know?
Wow.
So those are the funnest guys to hang out with, though, like the super nerds, because just come up with cool things to do.
That's I still can't get over the fact that you built a laser out of a PlayStation and it took out the base. Like seriously, because I'm everybody's favorite conspiracy theorist, dude.
Right? And you think, oh, no way that could happen.
You want to talk about lasers that create weather modification, and everybody's like, no way. This guy just told me he created a laser out of a PlayStation. What do you think they're doing on a higher level?
That's just for funsies.
And that was just for fun. That was just like, oh, let's freaking pass time.
And that's their kind of specialty, is they come up with things that you've never even heard of, that I've never heard of, that people use on missions and things like that.
Did you see anything like that would lead you to believe that we 100% have that kind of technology?
Oh, absolutely.
Talk about it.
Well, I can't talk about like specifics.
No,
but like,
obviously.
There's a lot more capability than people let on. Like there's the things that are, battle tested, pressure tested over and over and over again for years. And those are the things that people are most familiar with. But the things that they're not so familiar with, is like, they don't publicize that. So there's a lot of things.
Because they're still testing.
They're still there. Yeah. And maybe they're using it in the field, but it's not common knowledge. Maybe in
the conspiracy theorists catch on, but they're conspiracy theorists.
You go back to like stealth bombers. Like, if you watch a stealth bomber fly and you didn't know what it was,
you'd think it was a UFO.
You absolutely would.
Right.
And so that's kind of the thing. It's like,
well,
eventually
it's interesting because so we were talking prior to this, do you listen to Sean Ryan podcast?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay. So did you hear, I can't remember the name of the guy. There was an episode where he had a guy on that was talking about UFOs, and I forget what the other term is, UFOs and is it UFA?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Anyway, basically he was saying that like a huge percentage of the time when people are seeing quote unquote UFOs, it's actually just
military.
us.
Yeah, it's
like our.
But they'd love it if you think it was a UFO.
and the other crazy thing is they're saying that when you see that, it's us trying to replicate actual UFOs.
So as an Intel, you can get stationed a lot of different places and get attached to a lot of different things.
Antarctica.
But one of the places you can get sent is Area 51.
Yes.
And I never got stationed there, but I had lots of friends that would come back from there or get stationed there. Like, hey, how was it? And they all say the exact same thing. It's not that interesting. It's actually kind of boring. But they all say the exact same thing.
Like the exact same words.
Yeah.
No way. Really?
So that makes it even more sus.
Oh, yeah. Especially you being, wow. That's crazy. That's wild. Okay,
so some of them are sitting there at home shaking their head like, nah, come on, dude.
Yeah, because dude, I am a very big believer that we actually do have technology especially laser technology. And we've had, dude, this is the thing. It's not a conspiracy. We've had it forever.
Right,
you can literally look it up. We've been building lasers, high-powered lasers forever. And to think that, when you have people that have not the best intentions,
right,
and they get their hands on something like that, and they're quote unquote testing it, who's to say what they're testing it on?
Yeah.
Who's to say what they're using it for? And who's to say that they're not being used to quote unquote, cause some wildfires in certain areas. Like you never know, right?
Who knows?
I'm just saying. I'm just a conspiracy theorist. Everybody knows.
The thing about it is like it's only conspiracy until someone proves it right.
Yeah, and dude, I don't know if you've been paying attention. I'm sure you have, but I am batting 1,000 right now, man. Like we are just dingers, just over and over. Because it seems like, what's the statement everybody says? It's conspiracy is only a conspiracy for 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the difference between a conspiracy and reality is 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been that way for a few years now, several years now, right?
I mean, you even just look back like a couple years and think about the things that are happening now. And if someone had told you back then, you're like, no way.
Oh, for sure. Dude, COVID.
Here we are.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Who in their right mind would have thought that there would be people walking around with milk cartons on their heads because they were afraid of the air?
That was an interesting time to be a cop. Let me just tell you.
Oh, I bet, dude. You know what though? It's funny because even in Rexburg, you weren't a cop in Rexburg then, were you? Or were
Madison
you?
County.
Okay,
Yeah.
so dude, I'll be honest. I actually always tell people I kind of feel bad because I was the guy that was getting kicked off planes, and like I did not wear a mask, and I was that guy for a long time, and everybody knows this. But what was interesting is, I mean, you can speak to this here. There was 4 places I can count that actually enforced the mask. Everybody else, like, I feel like they tried to lock us down for like 2 weeks, and everybody was like, "Nah, that's not happening here."
Yeah, that's basically what happened at my school, my jiu-jitsu school. Like, they locked down for a couple weeks, and after a couple weeks, I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Like this is not. Yeah,
but there was, because I went to several meetings about it.
Yep.
And there were several. I think your elected officials were more concerned about it than your general populace.
Of course they were, because it's politics.
The general person around here was like, nah, I'm not about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the elected part of it was where I had to deal with that.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, and
pressure from that end.
Well, and like, so we met through Lane, but I also am good friends with Rhodes. I'm good friends with
Josh.
Josh is the man. So Josh and I actually, it's funny, we were connected back when I was in college because I threw these massive, you might actually remember this. Do you remember the uprising parties?
No.
The uprising paint fights?
Oh yeah, I did hear about that.
That was me.
Okay.
I put those on. Yeah. So Josh was like super supportive, and he made it. It was actually my senior project, dude. I did the Silly String Fest, the one where we broke the Guinness Book of World Records up.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Up at the Zone. Anyway, so dude, it was crazy. I think it was 5,000 kids. No, it was 3,800 kids in the warehouse, and there was 5,000 cans of Silly String. I had a gas mask on. I couldn't breathe. It was so crazy.
Wild.
But anyway, Josh was super supportive, and he always had off-duty cops come and, just chaperone and stuff. Yeah, dude, he's the man.
I feel like he really gets the concept behind law enforcement and what people need.
Yeah.
How to actually serve a community. Like that dude gets it.
Yeah. So we've been tight ever since. And he, anyway, so that same thing during COVID, like we would have conversations. It would just be like, dude, this is so dumb. Like, this is so dumb, dude. And
then there'd be all this pressure, and I'm sure Josh remembers too, but there'd be like, there's all this pressure to like, oh, you guys need to write citations or arrest about masks and things like that. And there'd be several conversations and he'd be on the same page as like, we're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Like it's not happening. Yeah. Like you can say it all you want, but it's not happening. It's not going to manifest. No, that's exactly what, you probably know this. Greg talked a lot about that in his episode, because that's what he was known for. He was I think he was the only cop in the Seattle area that was like, I'm not doing this. And none of you should either.
Right.
And yeah.
Well, like it came up so often, like even just talking to like the prosecutors here in town, like we had conversations about it. Like, no, that's not even prosecutable. Like there's no way you could make that hold up in court.
Right.
So like, what's the point? You're wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it never became a thing as much as certain people wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That would be a whole other podcast to get in those certain people, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that is okay. So let's back up. So we go on our no, it's my fault. Dude, my ADHD is wild. So you were in Intel.
I was in Intel. I love doing that. I actually got out. This sounds ironic, but I hurt myself. I hurt my back in PT, and got out on a medical retirement. I was like, well, what do I do now? And I ended up going back to law enforcement, which was great. I've always loved it. And from there, like I did a bunch of different stuff in law enforcement. I've worked in jails. I've worked on patrol. I've done investigations, and my degree is actually in communications, so PR work and things like that. Did my undergrad here at BYU, Idaho. Did my master's degree through Johns Hopkins. But I started doing public information for law enforcement. And that's where I ended my law enforcement career, was doing public information.
Really?
So that was a lot of fun, actually.
Okay.
A lot of fun.
Sorry, back up a little bit.
You're good.
So when you were in Intel in the Air Force, is that what you did as well then? Did you do PR?
No.
Oh.
So like the military has their own PR machine that does those types of things, but Intel deals with a lot of more tactical things like that, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
It could be anything as boring for back then anyway, before we got split up. Back then, it could be anything as boring as like, okay, you're going to track this aircraft for the next 12 hours. And you're just watching a screen like blip, blip. And it could be something as boring as that to like, hey, we need you to figure out where this certain target is and come up with a way where we can access him to either, apprehend or take out that target.
Hence the problem solving stuff.
Yes. Then you need all these problem solving skills because sometimes it's not as cut and dry.
You probably can't give away details or anything, but without giving away details, names, etc., what is the most difficult, quote unquote, problem you had to solve as when you're in Intel with the Air Force?
Sometimes it's actually, it's hard to us to fathom in a Western environment, like never being online. Like there's always like an app or something that we're accessing, our phones or computers. And that makes you very easy to find.
Right.
And that is why most of our targets don't use those things. They go very
dark.
Old school, very dark, because they know we're tracking all those things.
Right.
And if they were to jump on that at any point, we would find them.
Right.
So
for everybody that thinks that the government doesn't know what you're doing or where you are just because you have a VPN.
I hate to break it to you.
You're there. They got you.
We can find you.
Yeah.
We can find you. But yeah, finding someone who's gone completely underground like that can be quite difficult. So you have to utilize different intelligence sources, human intelligence, any kind of visual intelligence you get, and you compile all those things. And a lot of those times, what it is a piece. And if you were to look at that one piece and someone who doesn't know what that is, they're like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. And this piece doesn't mean anything.
But to someone like you look at it, you're like, oh, okay.
And you feed it to an Intel guy, and he takes these pieces, and it's like a giant Sudoku puzzle. He connects the dots. This is what's happening.
Can you walk us through that? Can you
Sure.
give us an example? Like, here are all the pieces I was given.
And part of it's paying attention to a lot of things at once. And that's like an ADHD person loves this.
For sure. Yeah. Like are you talking in terms of like,
let's say there was a truck involved in a certain event that maybe wasn't even related to the guy I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But it was involved in a similar activity. And so, okay, I have that truck. And I take that truck, and that's kind of like store that away. And maybe I see an image of a similar truck 2 weeks later. And maybe it was in this other region. And then, okay, well, now I have a geographical region and I have a vehicle.
Okay.
And now I've got two pieces, actually. And so you give
so you're connecting objects, locations, times.
Then you got routes in between. Like, okay, well, are there any cameras or anything? Or are we doing any flybys? And then you start looking for images of anything in between. You start listening for telephone calls, anything in between that could tell you, okay, now I can narrow my focus to this. Now I have a list of individuals that were at this location together with this truck parked there. Then you start compiling information, and you take all that information, and then you kind of formulate a big picture of what's going on.
Interesting.
But that can take a long time, or it could take a couple minutes.
Really?
It can go really fast.
Just because they're moving so fast?
That's the speed of information. Yeah.
Wow. And
obviously, the faster you do it, the better.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't have a choice.
And do they usually know exactly, this is probably a dumb question, but do they know how long it's going to, is there ever a time where they're like, look, you have 5 minutes to figure this out? And if you can't?
Sometimes you're just out of luck, and you run into a wall and you don't get it done. But
interesting. But
a lot of times, and it's not just one person. Nobody ever works alone. You're always on a team. You're always with a group of people.
Yeah.
And it's I speak English and all the Spanish swear words, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But I can pick up a phone to this day, and I know a linguist in any language you could probably think of, and they can translate anything I want. And so you have access to all these tools that help you along this this path.
Yeah.
Puzzle this all together.
That's really cool, dude. what could you tell just the average, like just average Joe, like the most, I don't know, the most mind-boggling thing about Intel and just in general and how it relates to us? Because I mean, we live in an age of information, dude.
Right. We live in an age of information, and we like to think that we know a lot.
Yeah, I always say this isn't what I say. I heard it somewhere. I can't even remember who said it, but it was the whole idea of we're constantly like we're starving for knowledge, and we're inundated with information.
Right.
But like real knowledge and real truth is
so hard to attain,
yeah.
It really is. And there's a lot of information that the normal person just doesn't have access to. Like even anybody in the military, everybody in the military has a level of clearance.
Mm-hmm.
And within the military, there's people with higher and higher different clearance levels. And you just have access. There's things I never had access to that someone with probably in command probably has a lot of access to.
Right.
So you just have access to certain information. And even it's like wetting your beak. You're like, I wonder how much more of that there is out there. Because like, we look at our internet and things, search engines and Google, and like, I can access anything. You really can't. There is a secret internet that you can look things up on.
And then you go to jail.
And then you
go to jail if you're on that. Yeah.
Yeah, things like that.
Interesting.
But it's cool in the sense that like before that, I hadn't really thought of myself as like someone who would even go into the military. Like, because that's not something I would equate.
So yeah, so you kind of said what made you do it. It was more, was it like, what was the ultimate, I mean, yeah, what was the ultimate driving factor?
So when I did my undergrad, my initial goal for undergrad was like, oh, I'm going to get my bachelor's degree and I'm going to go to law school. And then I met some lawyers and I decided I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So, but reaching the end of my undergrad, I was like, man, there's a lot of people that talk a big game and they really don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hypocritical. Like people talk a lot and do very little.
Yep.
You're probably very familiar.
Very familiar.
So I didn't want to be that
familiar.
guy. So I'm like, I want to do something with this. I have this education.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have opinions about things.
Yeah.
Like put up or shut up kind of moment for me, I guess.
Okay. Did you meet somebody that kind of got you into it, or was it just really you knew, like you're just like, okay, the military is where I'm going to go?
I didn't really have anybody that directed me that way. If anything, like,
do you have family?
It was really ironic. So in high school, I was kind of a garbage teenager, man. Like I was not a great kid. Like,
Same. Funny how that works, right?
I went to my high school guidance counselor.
Yeah.
And this I hope he hears this someday. He might, I don't know. But I asked him like, hey, my friends are getting ready to go to college, all these things like that. And he looked me dead in the eye. He's like, you will never go to college. You will never have a degree. You will probably end up working a dead end job. And the only path for you is joining the military. Well, joke's on him. I have a master's. I probably have more education than he does now. And I did join the military, but not for the reasons he thinks. And I've had like 2 careers now. So
what's crazy is that's the exact same story that I have. The exact same story, like literally verbatim. Same exact thing. When I was thinking about going to college, I had a couple options, but I was also a crap teenage dude. I was a rebel. Every part of me rebelled against everything around me. I always say that the only reason I made it out of high school is because of my 2 friends that were much smarter than me.
Sure.
And that kind of kept me grounded and not making stupid decisions the whole time, right? But like, it's a miracle that I made it out of school, an absolute miracle. Yeah. And that is the exact thing that they said to me. That the counselor said that I will never forget it. It literally said the exact same thing. You will never go to college. Your best bet is a community college. Yeah. If you can even make it through a year of that. Yeah. And then you're going to work a dead end job for the rest of your life. And you just need to get used to being average. That was the exact words,
that was the
bro.
Conversation.
And
they're so dejected. I'm like, man, I'm just a screw up.
Oh, dude, I didn't. I remember thinking. I'm going to, and I still to this day, dude. I don't even know if he's still there, but I remember thinking, I'm coming back. And when I am someone who you can look up to, right, I'm going to say, what now? Right.
Right.
And dude, here's the thing, though. I think. I would consider both of us probably high achieving individuals, people that
I like to think so. I like to try.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot. Like I think
I don't want to succeed at everything, but I'm going to give it a go.
Well, and that's the difference. The difference is the desire. The difference is is wanting to be more than just the cog in the wheel, right? Yeah. maybe I can say even I know that for me personally, I know that comes from my rebellious nature.
Oh yeah.
The fact that I was rebellious against authority, the fact that I never wanted to be told what to do. Dude, I invented in-school suspension as an elementary school. Like 5th grade, they didn't even know what to do. They were just like,
lock 'em in a room.
you're just going to sit by the principal's desk and we're going to give you your lunch. And we started ISS now.
Right.
And like, I got kicked out every single year of my high school career. I started food fights, like literally stuff out of like the Jackass movies. Like that's who I was.
Nice.
And yeah, it was so much fun. And,
Stuff you get in a lot of trouble for now.
For sure. But like looking back, I'm like, that rebellious nature is what made me so tenacious. It's what made me like never ever want to be the status quo. Like and want to make a name for myself. And I will tell you that also that conversation with the guidance counselor, and it wasn't just her, it was teachers, it was the principal, it was family members, like everyone told me I wasn't going to be anybody because I couldn't focus. I couldn't sit still. I didn't listen to authority. I wasn't obedient, blah, 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 blah. Look at me now. Yeah. But like that, I do believe that there's a piece of all of us who had that rebellious childhood that I think made us who we are today. All of my friends are that way.
Well, it was funny because like as a little kid, man, I was a squishy little kid. Like I was not a tough little kid.
Oh no, me neither, dude.
And I had like very few friends. I would sit in my room and read my comic books. I was a comic book nerd. I loved comic books before comic books were cool.
What comics?
Dude, I read a lot of Avengers. I loved freaking Captain America. I loved Superman because they were like these hierarchy. They were the archetypes that I wasn't.
Yeah.
Like man, if I could just be like Superman or Steve Rogers and that someone could just like make me super like that'd be awesome.
Dude,
they're everything I wasn't, right?
Yep. I can totally relate. I read comic books. I collected the cards. My thing too, though, was I got really into like Spawn.
Oh, Spawn was cool.
I loved Spawn, dude.
See, there were certain comics like Spawn and like Doctor Strange and things. That my mom was like, you can't have those ones. Those ones are too dark.
Yeah, they're too dark.
And I would sneak them in, like, and I would read them. Like, that's how rebellious I was as a small child. Like, oh no, he's reading Doctor Strange. That sounds silly now. But it's like,
no, but I think that makes sense. Like again, man, it's interesting because so many of us have that same story of the rebellious nature, and then we always. It seems like all of us found an outlet. Like I drew Marvel characters. I still do it to this day. That's like cool. That's my thing. I love to draw Marvel characters, and I remember that being a huge thing. I was also, I don't know if you dabbled in like Magic the Gathering.
Oh, I never did. No,
dude, I played Magic the Gathering. Like I played in tournaments.
But see, I think Magic's great because it puts people in that social circle.
For sure.
And it's great.
And people can dog on it all they want, dude. Yu-Gi-Oh's got nothing on it, man. Pokemon, get the freak out of here.
Get out of here.
But Magic the Gathering was like, again, it was another... I realize now as I'm looking back that I was constantly looking for outlets to like not only get frustration out and stuff like that, but also just to find ways to problem solve. Because at my core, like you, I think
puzzles,
dude, we're problem solvers. It's like I need a fire to go off so that I can figure out how to put it out.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what leads the same personality type to the military, to law enforcement, and things like that, because it fuels that. It kind of feeds that need.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me though, it's like I was never that person as a kid. And I credit to my dad. My dad is like, if you were to imagine what the typical rough Alaskan man looked like, that is my dad. He's a giant beard. He's a giant man. He looks like a grizzly bear.
Okay.
The nicest dude you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
But just a bear of a dude. And he decided like, well, because I would get picked on in school all the time, get the crap kicked out of me. And he's like, you can live the rest of your life like that, or you can change it. He's like, it's really up to you. He's like, I can't give you these superpowers. He's like, but you can do things that make yourself improved to where that's not going to happen to you. And he put me in wrestling, and dude, probably saved my life.
It's the exact same story. Exact same story. I mean, literally anybody that knows me, like I was picked on relentlessly as a kid. All the way up until like 7th grade. We grew up, we grew up in upstate New York. My family and I lived in a trailer park. Family of 7 in a tiny single wide trailer. We had what we needed. We didn't have anything we wanted.
Right.
Now my parents were separated, and you know there was more opportunity with my mom's side of the family, and just because it was, you know, my mom wasn't providing for 6 people, and my grandma and my aunts and uncles are kind of like moms and dads at that point. But so I had a mix of both. But when we were with my dad and my immediate family, my dad, my stepmom, and my brothers and sisters, like we did not have what we wanted. We had what we needed. But anyway, growing up in that trailer park, there was literally 2 kids for 4 years, I think, 4 years that picked on me, and then it got to bullying, and then it just got to the point where they were jumping me. Yeah. So for the last 2 years, I remember, so we had to walk, it was probably about, I don't know, maybe a quarter mile that we had to walk from the house to the bus stop. And I remember every single day for a full school year, maybe it wasn't 2, maybe it was 1. I remember sitting in the back of the bus, but then as we got closer to my stop, I would move to the front. And I can remember grabbing onto that leather seat with the hole to this day. You know what I'm talking about, right? Those Bluebird buses. And I remember thinking, I have to book it off this bus and get ahead of these guys.
To make it home.
Make it home, or I'm getting jumped. Every single day. And it's funny too, because it's like the same exact thing where basically after a while, my parents were first concerned, and then they would go talk to them, and it didn't do anything. And then
never does.
And then finally my dad's like, dude, you got to stand up for yourself. Like you literally have to just sock him in the face. I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to punch him. And you know, cause I wasn't a violent kid. Like,
no, me neither.
I was
it didn't come naturally to me.
No, like I listened to a lot of violent music. I watched a lot of violent things, but I wasn't violent. And even to this day I do that, but I don't feel like I'm a very violent person. I feel like that's actually kind of a channel, right? Anyway, I remember, I will never forget it, dude. The day that happened, it was, I got off the bus and I just started running. They caught me. The kid that was the like main kid that would jump me every day, grabbed my backpack, threw me on the ground. And this was worse than any other time because it wasn't just kicking and punching. He actually like stomped my head into the ground.
Oh, nice.
And I went out for a couple minutes, and when I came back to, he was gone. I had blood all over my head, went home. And that's when my dad was like, dude, you have got to stand up for yourself. There's like, and it's funny because this kid was a lot smaller than me. Like I was taller and I was kind of chubby. So I was a little bit bigger too. And he's like, you just got to stand up to him, because the only reason why he's picking on you is because
he thinks he can.
He thinks he can. And you're not giving him, as soon as you show any resistance, I remember my dad saying, as soon as you show any resistance, he's going to move on to the people that aren't. And we all know this now, right?
Yeah,
everybody knows this about bullying.
Spun up on the psychology of this now.
And dude,
but back then,
yeah. But I remember the day that I did it. I literally walked up to the bus stop. It was the morning, and he walked up to pick on me, and I literally, dude, didn't even think about it, because I talked myself into it the whole way walking up to the bus stop. And then when I finally got up there, I was like, okay, this is it. Here he comes. And as soon as he opened his mouth, just right in his cheek, and he went like this, and he was like,
what just
and
happened?
His buddy Eric, I remember his buddy Eric was like, whoa. And they kind of just like, he kind of like came at me for a minute, and I just like stood there and I was like, I'll do it again. Like, I'm not, and I was probably bluffing, because I probably still would have got my freaking ass kicked, but
it's the idea of being easy prey.
And that was enough. And he stopped. That was the day he stopped. And that was also the day that I was like, oh, this is how it works. Okay. Right. And you're right, dude. I hated wrestling, but I got into wrestling.
I was never great at wrestling.
No, I hated wrestling.
But it saved my life.
Yeah, I will say it didn't save my life, but I got into football. Football was a lot of fun.
Football's similar though. Like it teaches you kind of that grit.
Yeah. No, football was awesome. Football, I would say, changed my life. The coach,
a really good coach will change your life.
Yeah, dude, sure. And he was a bastard.
He in the best way or the worst way?
So it's in the best way. At the time, I thought it was the worst way, but in the best way. I'll never forget it. So my Instagram handle is Iwenster, and it's funny because people always ask, "Is that your last name? Like, is it Ian and Wenster?" And no, Wenster. Iwenster was my nickname in football. So the coach would always Iwenster. And I don't know where it came from. And then when I started my Instagram, I was like, I'm just going to call it Iwenster. And then it's funny because when I started to kind of like get more popular and, blow up a little bit, I was like, oh crap, I got to change this. I got to do like just Ian Wendt. And I did it. And for probably 3 or 4 days, people were like, we can't find you. We don't know. And I was like, So I just got stuck into this Wentster thing. So now everybody knows me as Wentster, but it's funny because that's my high school football name.
That's funny.
And anyway.
But it's earned. It's earned.
Yeah, but, you know, and I wasn't the best football player at all, but it just, truth be told, dude, the rebelliousness, I think, is what has made that that desire to just be more, you know, and I know you can relate to that.
Well, it's a weird psychology because it's like mess with a lot as a kid, and like my mom got so worried, like she put me in homeschool for a few years. I was still wrestling, but I was in homeschool because I was just getting beat up too bad, and so that was fine. Did wrestle a few. I don't think I won a match till like 8th grade. Like it took years, and because I just wasn't that aggressive kid, and wrestling's all about aggression.
Yeah.
But then I remember going back to public school, like, Mom, I feel like I'm ready. Like wrestling's really toughened me up. I had a great coach, Coach Camo. He took good care of me. We still talk occasionally. I send him a message here and there. I'll probably send him a message tonight because I'm thinking about him now.
Yeah.
Because he deserves some thanks because like he gave me something with that. And going back, same kids, because those problems don't go away.
No.
They just grow up and get bigger with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a similar story. It's funny because it's the same psychology. It's the same answer. And I didn't know what else to do because I didn't know how to punch really. So I just double-legged this kid. I just blast double this kid. And I was not familiar with what happens to people when you take them down on pavement. And his head smacked the pavement.
Oh, no.
And he was out kind of dazed for a second. But when he woke up, like he couldn't see. Like they had knocked like the vision, because the visual part of your brain's in the back, and it smacked. And it went, and he probably couldn't see anything for a solid minute before it came back. But in my head, I'm like, first I thought I killed him.
Yeah.
And then I thought I blinded him. And then he came to and I was like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. And like, it was actually a really weird interaction after that because then we were kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, oh, shoot, maybe I shouldn't mess with this kid.
Kind of the respect of fighters.
Right. But at the same time, years and years of that, it does create kind of an FU in you, like a little bit of anger, and you need an outlet for that.
Yeah.
And if you don't find outlets for that, they'll find ways out on their own.
Yep.
So
agreed.
That's why I love teaching kids, because I've had plenty of kids that get bullied that end up in jiu-jitsu classes with me, and they might learn a little jiu-jitsu. Kids learn what they will. Sometimes they learn more, sometimes they learn less. But if nothing else, I know for about an hour a day, that kid is safe and happy with me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's all they get. That's not lost on me.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. It's always so fascinating to me how, especially now learning more and more about jiu-jitsu, like, I don't know why, it's weird, dude. I don't know what it is, but for the last like 6 months, it's been brought up so many times. Like it just keeps on happening over and over. Lane's the first one that was like, you got to come roll with me. He invites me to roll with him all the time. And every time he does, I'm like, dude, I'm out of town or I can't, I'm busy, but like, and I legit am. I feel bad because I'm like, don't stop inviting me because I'll come one of these days.
Right.
But it's been like the last 6 months that it's just been very...
no accidents.
No, I don't think so, dude. And I really think that it's something I definitely need to get into. What... I guess what is your best advice for someone who is considering it, and I talked a little bit about this on the last podcast about how, dude, everybody I know just gets absolutely thrashed. And I know for a fact, like I'm the type of person that will get hurt because I don't have an off switch.
Right.
And I know that jiu-jitsu is a lot about control and not so much about aggression. And I'm like,
right. I mean, to a point, right? Like in all combat sports, like especially if you try to be competitive with it. And that I think is the key. If you're trying to be competitive with it, that's where, like in any competitive sport, that's where injuries happen.
So you just need to go into it knowing that you're not actually competing.
Right. I'm not competing with anybody but myself. That's really like the key. And then it's as intense as I want it to be. And that might change day to day. Like maybe you're feeling really healthy that day. And then other days you're not going to feel as intense and you need to dial that down. It's no different than like weightlifting. I can't hit my PR every day.
Sure.
Nor should I try.
And you need to be aware of your body too. With
right.
That. Yeah.
I think having that awareness helps a lot. And then realizing that the majority of your training will be at about 50% or slower. Just slow it down and chill it out, because it can be really chill if you let it be. It's
Yeah.
when you get your ego involved in it and you're like, I need to win practice. Like nobody wins practice.
Yeah.
So you just have to let that go.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, what's the worst case scenario should be, oh, somebody tapped me out, which everybody taps out. World champions tap out like 15 times a practice. So it's like,
For sure.
you just get over it.
Yeah.
And at this point, like at this stage, as long as I've been doing it, like I've tapped out, I don't know, thousands of times probably to different people doing different things. And it's fine. As long as you're willing to submit and learn. They have a saying in jiu-jitsu, there's no losing. It's you either win or you learn. And that's, you just have to keep taking the lesson. Slow everything down.
Would you say that jiu-jitsu is like one of the best teachers as far as, I don't know, just teachers in general? Like teachers of men and women, just...
Whatever you are, like, because people will come into it perfectly fine human beings. Like if you're a good person, it's going to keep you, it's just going to enhance what you are. I was actually talking to Dean Lister, multiple time world champion. Guy's amazing and funny as heck.
Yeah.
But he was like, if you're a jerk, if you're an a-hole, he's never going to promote you. He's like, because I don't want that guy representing my school, moving up in jiu-jitsu. Like he washes those guys out on purpose.
Interesting.
Like, he's Jocko's instructor.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So Jocko's the same way. He's like, nah, like he'll wash those guys out because their ego can't take it and they're the wrong personality. Excuse me. That's what we kind of like. We want to take those things and just make you better. And it can do that if you let it. Like it can make you a humble person. It can make you a caring person. It can make you a team player if you're not really a social person. People get it confused. Like, oh, you're so talkative. You're very social. I'm like, no, like if you're having me on a mat in my comfort zone talking about jiu-jitsu, I can do that all day long if you want me to.
Yeah.
But take me to like a church party and I'm like, I'm not doing
Dude,
anything.
I am the same way. Oh my gosh.
I
I swear, I say this all the time. Because like I'm very loud online, right? And I'm very social when I go to like events and things like that. Or like you said, when I'm like in my element.
Right.
Dude, church or the gym. When I'm at the gym, I don't care if you're my best friend. I don't talk to you. And it's not personal.
It's not.
I just want nothing to do with anybody. I just want to lift and listen to angry music and get the freak out of there. And the same thing with church. It's like, I'm here to worship God. And like, this is...
And I get that some people need the social side of church.
I don't want to be social
and I mean
at
nothing
all.
against anybody. I love all the people I go to church
Yeah,
with.
same.
They're
Same. I
wonderful.
love you all.
They're wonderful
like,
humans.
You're great people.
I don't need to hang out with you.
No, no, dude. And it's so funny because I'm like, I don't know.
And if you need me, call me. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
But we don't have to.
Well,
like,
and the other
anytime.
and like and that's not to say like you can't talk to me. Like if you come up and talk to me, I'll talk to you. I just won't talk. I won't initiate it.
Yeah, it's not something that I have a need for.
No, like I am going to church to go to church, and I don't have any desire to just be chitty chatty the whole time. Like I can't. It drives me nuts, dude. I'm like I can't. And again, I love you all. If you're watching this, I have nothing against you, and you can talk to me anytime you want. But like I personally just.
Well, it was crazy awkward for a while.
I'm
there
super
too,
antisocial at church.
Because like, and to this day still, it's like, but especially when I would do MMA and competitive jiu-jitsu over the years, and I'd go to church banged up, like I'd have like a black eye or something, and people would like, what's wrong with Brother Payne? Like, what's he doing? Like you're just kind of the freak.
I just
So
realized your last
kinda
name. I
round
just
pegs
realized
to
your
barrel.
last name is Payne.
Yeah, bro.
That's pretty. That's pretty
It's a
relevant.
little on the nose. It's a little on the nose, but it works.
How? Yeah. How much? You've probably gotten a lot for that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, that makes me just think of Major Payne, dude.
Which is like an amazing movie.
It's
if you've
it's
never
so
seen
underrated. It's such a good movie.
It's so quotable.
If you haven't seen the movie Major Payne, go watch it.
It's
All
probably
right.
like, I don't know how well that's aged, but it's still funny.
Yeah.
It's still funny.
Okay, so I wanna get into law enforcement because you and I were
Yes.
kind of talking about a couple things.
Right.
So I want to talk about your knowledge as far as like force goes and the controversy around the George Floyd thing in 2020 because I know we share a lot of the same opinions, but also I know that there's a lot you can teach people. And then also let's talk about Psyops, okay?
Yeah.
Because listen, it's to the point where it's like, what is not a Psyop?
What is not a psyop? Like, what is real? Like,
Yeah.
that's a huge
So
question.
which one do you want to touch first?
Let's do psyops first.
Psyops first, okay. So, take it away, dude. Like, seriously, I'm at the point where every time I turn around, someone's like, this is a psyop. And I'm like, yeah, probably.
So like,
But like, I don't know. Because
and it varies in level. If you're not familiar with what a psyop is, psychological operation, right?
yes, so
It's like where
so,
I'm messing with what people perceive as real.
yeah. So can you break it down on like a professional intel level for people?
Yeah, I just need to convince somebody that I might have an objective. I definitely have an objective to why I'm doing it, but I have to convince somebody of a certain truth to elicit a certain behavior. And if I can do that with something that's not even real, that's a psyop. So like I'll give you like I have a friend who did he's a specialist in human intelligence. That's what he did. He was an interrogator, right?
Okay.
So he was interrogating an individual.
Those guys are crazy.
Oh,
man.
they're great. They're so good at what they do because I love interviews. I love interviewing bad guys. That was one of my favorite things to do in law enforcement. But he was interviewing someone from an undisclosed country who had maybe never lived in the modern world. I was very unfamiliar with Western culture.
Huh.
And he was interviewing
Around
this
what
guy.
time?
It's probably about early 2000s.
Yeah. All right.
And he had never seen the movie. This detainee had never seen the movie Jurassic Park. Didn't even know what it was.
Really?
He's from a cave somewhere. And my friend is trying to interview this guy to get more information out of him. Where are all of your buddies? Where are all your things? And he wheels in this TV and shows him like a 2-minute segment of the Tyrannosaurus from Jurassic Park, right? Which looks fairly realistic, especially if you only show a segment. And he convinces this guy, like, the U.S. has these. We will unleash them on your home village unless you tell us everything you know.
You're lying.
I'm not lying.
He convinced him that dinosaurs were real.
Convinced him dinosaurs were real. Because how would he argue against that? He doesn't have the information to disprove what he just saw. And he told him everything.
What?
And that's a psyop. I convinced you a story was real, even though that's total bunk. And now I've gotten what I wanted out of you.
And it's simply because he had never seen.
Yeah, if
the
you
movie.
don't know, you don't know.
But he knows about dinosaurs.
He knows maybe, I don't know, but he doesn't know what modern movies look like and what is possible with modern science. So he was a little behind on that, and he capitalized on that.
Dude, that is one of the craziest things I have ever heard. So so let me get this straight. This guy convinced, I'm just assuming, you don't have to confirm. I'm assuming this was a terrorist. He convinced a terrorist that dinosaurs were real and that the
U.S. government,
the U.S. government had dinosaurs that we would unleash on his population, on his people.
Yes.
If he didn't give up the names of his buddies and locations or whatever
you might
else.
look at that as like super deceptive, which it is.
No,
but I didn't harm him. I didn't even touch him.
Dude,
those things. Like,
but
so you,
it's not
you
even.
Kinda, you look at the art of it and you go, okay, that's kind of slick in a way. Like that's very clever. And that's kind of the point.
It's not even so much that it's deceptive to me. It's like, yeah, it's deceptive. But dude,
would you rather I torture him?
But the craziest part of that whole thing is the fact that they convinced this human being that an extinct creature based off of a Hollywood movie is real and that we have it.
So props to Spielberg, right?
Yeah, but okay. So far you have told me that you know people who have created a high-powered laser with a PlayStation and an interrogator that convinced someone that a dinosaur is real.
People. I'm not very cool.
Like,
I know a lot
dude,
of cool
it's
people.
just crazy because now I want everybody to just think for a second, and I'm just like, what else is possible?
Think about what is actually real. And
because what do we not know? Like, what is our dinosaur?
Right, exactly. What is our dinosaur?
What is our Jurassic Park? And what are they
we're
using?
We're just not educated or spun up enough on something to know that it's not real. And I'm not saying you couldn't be. It would just take a little legwork. But as a society, as you know, we're kind of lazy in that department. We want to be instantly spoon-fed information and have it quickly digestible. So like sit there and like actually research something is too tedious for most people.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Can you give me an example of a real psyop that you know of being a real psyop that's probably common knowledge or like is okay to talk about?
Knowledge,
or that's okay to talk about? Like,
I mean, like the really common one back in the day was leaflets. Like before even like modern technology, they would drop leaflets on people and like, surrender now. We're going to, drop bombs on you this day or that day. And they would drop leaflets from airplanes. And that would be a type of psyop.
Leaflets, like a pamphlet.
Yeah, like little pieces of paper that just said in their native tongue, we're going to attack you, surrender now. And like, if you can get someone to surrender, like maybe they don't even have the capability of attacking like that. But if you convince them to surrender without firing a shot or dropping a bomb, like that's a pretty good psyop. It's a very successful one. But that used to be like World War I, World War II. That's fairly common.
Well, dude, the amount of psyops that were probably
perpetrated, I couldn't even count.
I mean, I'm a big believer that I don't think all of history is a lie, but I think
it's definitely written from a perspective.
It's written from the whole quote goes, history is dictated and told by the victors, right?
Right.
I 100%.
There's a PR quote that says, "Never let a good disaster go to waste." Either.
I've heard that. Yeah, man. It's okay. So, geez. Okay, so this is just your opinion now.
Sure.
This is Isaac Payne's.
I'm allowed to have opinions.
Yeah, no, yeah, you absolutely can have an opinion. So this is Isaac Payne's. This is Isaac Payne's opinion. What is what do you think is top 3 biggest modern day psyops? Like let's say since like 2000.
Since 2000,
in your opinion,
we're going back. Okay.
Well, I'm just going back to when you were in the military.
You're right. Modern day psyops. I think like domestically, I think we mentioned this, like BLM is definitely a psyop.
We're going to get into that.
We're going to get into that because it's just, I don't know. Definitely like many aspects of a lot of these have, if you look at the motivators, a lot of them have like a political motivator to them, like someone seizing power.
Right.
And in that sense, I would classify a lot of the elements of COVID as a psyop.
Mm-hmm.
At least the reality of it is there is a COVID, like there is a COVID virus, but what it was used for is the psyop. So there's an element of truth, and then you basically capitalize on.
Do you think? I was going to say, do you think the virus came before the psyop or the psyop before the virus? Because
that's a great question.
I personally believe that the psyop came before the virus.
I think that's very possible.
I think it was a matter of, this is what we're going to do. This is the objective. This is the agenda. Now we just need something to make it happen.
And if you don't think there's people in authority that would perpetrate something like that, you're wrong.
No,
because they're just people.
Yeah, exactly.
And people
and
do horrible things
and they're the worst kind of people, man. Like, let's just be honest.
Hungry people.
They're the people that want power and control. And I've said this a million times. I've said that once you get to a point where you have a lot of money and you have a lot of power, there's really only one more. And that's that type of person that gets that much money and that much power is the type of person that's never going to, quote unquote, go down a rung on the ladder.
No,
like you're just going to keep climbing. You can't.
Yeah, it's a type of psychopathy where they can't let that happen.
Right. And the only thing left, in my opinion, other than all the money and all the power in the world, it's control.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing that's left is who and what do I now control and how do I do it? Right? Like that's why I think that's why so many of these politicians, it's why I believe that so many of them are corrupt, because it's like so many of them have so much money, so much power. Oh yeah. And it is crazy to me when people...
And everybody that's like, oh, I would never do that, or like...
Well, no, you wouldn't.
Well, it's funny because it's like, even in law enforcement, when people would talk like that, it's like, oh, well, I would never do that. I would never commit that crime. And what most people don't realize is that you're one bad day or one bad decision from a whole nother life. And that's all it takes. And everybody has a price. And maybe that price is really high, or maybe that price is something you're not willing to give up. But you have to think of and you have to decide this for each individual. It's like, what is my integrity worth? What are my values worth? Mm-hmm. Maybe they're priceless, but I need to decide that ahead of time. If I wait for someone else to slap a price tag on them, then I'll probably get bought.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to assume that not all, but many of the politicians, many of these, tech oligarchs, many of these people have their price, mm-hmm. and they have so much money and so much power at this point that I would say that price has already been met, and they are continuing to go down the path that has led them. And I think it has a lot to do with controlling the population, controlling people.
Right. And it's funny in a sense that, like, we talk about like what the psyops are. We mentioned COVID and BLM and things like that. But like, I think the one people don't really think about a lot is your major political figures. Like, yeah, people like to like get real hot and in arms about like presidential elections and things like that. Those people aren't as important in the nuts and bolts of decision making that affect your lives that you think they are.
Do you think the presidential elections are psyops?
No, absolutely. I don't think your vote matters for that at all.
Really?
Not at all. Do I think you should vote? Absolutely, because it's a statement about who you are. Do I think it affects
elaborate on that? No, elaborate on that, because that's true. Like, so many people, this is what you call like the black pilled community, right? Where it's like, oh, our votes don't matter, and so we just shouldn't vote because it doesn't matter. And it's such a weird argument for me, because I'm like, if you believe that food is contaminated, then would you just going to stop eating? Or like, if you believe that there's, it's just like, okay, so how does that have, you believe that schooling is evil, and so you're just going to not educate your kids? Like, I don't know. I'm thinking of different things, but...
Yeah, but in order to change a system, if you don't agree with something, you have to be part of the system.
Right.
You can't,
interesting.
Like, in a lot of ways. Maybe you break the system, maybe you start a new system, but I can't complain about an election that I didn't participate in at all. Like, well, the outcome didn't go my way. I'm like, well, did you vote? But like, these larger elections, and not saying that the president doesn't matter, but he doesn't make the shots and the calls that you think he does.
No. He has far less power than we think.
Realizes that.
Yeah, he has far less power than we think he does.
Oh, for sure. But I think a lot of people get distracted by that.
For sure.
That's the one on TV. That's the one that you always see. But really, the ones you should be paying attention to are things like your local sheriff's election. That guy has more power over your life than you probably want to admit. And things like that.
Which is why I'm grateful we live here.
Oh, we live in a great place. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's as lucky.
I mean, it's terrible. This is an awful place. Don't come.
Yeah, don't come.
Stay where you are.
It's terrible. Stay on the coast.
Yeah, stay in the cities.
Yeah.
No, that's a really interesting point. I've had this conversation a lot, because I vote. I absolutely vote. It's I feel like it's my duty. And I like what you said. It says a lot about who you are.
Yeah.
Because if you vote, it says you actually care to be part of the change that you hope and that you wish you're going to be able to see. Like, at the end of the day, dude, I talk about this all the time. I voted for Trump, and I believe that Trump, I still to this day believe that Trump is definitely the best bet. I mean, out of all the options we had, Trump is definitely the best bet. And I do think that he's done a lot of good things, but also I'm not disillusioned to the point where I think that he's some kind of like
savior complex.
Savior. Yeah. I don't subscribe to that. I'm not a loyalist, right? It's the idea of like, hey, he's going to make mistakes. And also, like you said, he's influenced by how many people around him.
Oh, and a lot of them are making their own decisions.
They absolutely
away
are.
From him anyway.
And they are not America first. And, and that's the thing. It's like, you vote. But what I always say is I vote based on my values and my principles.
Yes.
And
not
the reason
going to my party or anything.
No, it has nothing to do with party. It has nothing to, dude, if I thought that RFK could, well, now things have changed a little bit with my opinion on him, but at the time, with everything that he was saying and campaigning on, and like the, kind of positive movement towards something other than Republican or Democrat, if I thought he could have beat the MAGA camp, I would have voted for RFK. Right. I absolutely would have voted for a Kennedy.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with the party. It had everything to do with values and principles.
And I will say, like, you'll never find a candidate that like perfectly aligns with all of that.
No, never.
But you find someone that can at least deliver on some of that for you.
Yes. And that's Trump. And that's the reality. That's Trump. And so, but then at the same time, I have a lot of people always come at me when I criticize Trump or criticize his cabinet, and they're like, "Oh,
I think that's part of a healthy democracy."
Well, dude, and again, I'm doing it based off of they went outside of my principles and values that I voted on.
I'm supposed to do,
and therefore
that's
what I'm. Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. Like that's what
they're beholden to me.
Yes, they are. Yeah. They are servants. They are civil servants. They're public servants. They're elected officials, elected and servants. Like that's. Think about what those were. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and so I agree with you. You said something interesting though. You said in order to make a change, you have to be part of the system. I actually kind of want to push against that because
I would push against it in a way
because I believe the system is actually the problem.
In a lot of ways. That
right? Itself, I think, is a psyop.
No, for sure. Because it's like, okay, you see, like you look at this two-party system, and what I mean by it is like if I have to be doing something, and it goes back to like I'm sitting there in my last college classes, like I can't just sit on my butt and not be part of anything.
Yeah.
Like, you can't complain about something and not do anything.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point.
I agree to that.
It's like you have to have an action bias.
Right.
If you want something out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And just sit back and let everyone do it for you is not going to happen.
Right.
But yeah, it's like there's like the whole two-party system, total crock. Things like that are like maybe even they worked in the past. But now it's just being used, like you said, to maintain control.
And I think that's what it is. I think what we've gone from is the two-party system worked at one point, but I think it's been
Now it's just
I think it's been manipulated and bastardized, and it's become this insanely polarizing idea that if you're not this, you're this, and if you're not this, you're this. And at the end of the day,
and then you're treated like a traitor if you ever segue in between.
Dude. And then at the same time, you see laws being passed on both sides. You're like, that's literally the same thing. Like we just fought against this, but now you're doing this, and it's the same damn thing. And it's the same people. It's the same. It's two different wings of the same bird. And I'll even
it's the equivalent to rival gangs.
Screw it. I'll jump into it right now, dude, because it's like one thing that I've criticized heavily with the Trump administration is, and this is the reason why everybody now calls me a Nazi. Because apparently when you criticize a foreign government, it makes you hateful of the people of that government anyway, it's insane. But I've been very critical of the support for the Israeli government. Why? Not because I hate the people in the country, not because I think that it's all one group of people that are involved in all the atrocities and all the corruption in the world and all these other crazy ideas that people have that are like super extreme, but because I don't believe that we should trade one war for another. No. And I don't believe that we should be involved in a foreign conflict.
I don't either.
That has the kind of history that it does. And we don't need to go into that right now. That's a whole other thing. But like, we should not be involved in this. And the reality is that we are, like I said, we're trading one war for the other. And this is not an America First policy.
Well, it's the same thing. It's a smokescreen, and it's not a winnable war. And that's the point. That's what they're looking for.
That guy right there.
Yeah.
Julian Assange, right? He said they don't want a successful war. They want an endless war.
Exactly. That's the point of it.
And that's exactly
and I
what
don't want
is.
any part of that.
That's right. Neither do I. And I don't think most Americans do.
I don't think they do either.
But if you really think about how things have run over the last, century or whatever, like it seems like there's another war for almost every generation.
Yeah, because they got to spin a new one up.
They got to keep it going.
Or reignite the same one.
That's right. But I think it is getting harder going into Psyops. I think going back into Psyops, I think it is getting harder for them to continue to spin these things with how powerful the internet is getting and how fast information travels. Like, I think in a big way, Psyops have ramped up, and that's part of why we're always like, what is a Psyop and what's not? Because I think it's gotten to a point where they almost have to run so many Psyops simultaneously to be able to control the narrative and also control the public opinion.
Right.
Because it just changes so fast.
The best you could do is muddy the water, and you'll never control the narrative again.
Exactly. Because as I think about how many different quote unquote Psyops have happened in just the last 2 years, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. We've gotten used to calling it the next thing.
Yeah. Like, what next? What
every
now?
day there's something insane.
You think these things happen by accident?
Yeah, dude. And 4 or 5 years ago, some of this stuff would happen, and you'd be like,
no way.
That's not real.
Yeah.
Like, no way.
It seems like a fairy tale. Like, no, you're making stuff up.
Totally, dude. And yeah, it's wild to me. What would you say? What would you say has been the most effective PSYOP in the last 2 years?
In the last 2 years?
That has very much influenced the outcome.
And again, I'm not saying that COVID isn't a real virus, but I think the way it was used was probably one of the most effective PSYOPs you could have seen.
I wasn't included.
Overreach of power.
It's crazy how much time has passed. I was saying 2 years because I was trying to get past COVID, because COVID's like,
but we're still feeling like
it's true. It's still here.
Where we live, we forget.
Yeah,
and at least I do.
But
until I go out of town,
there's still people wearing masks.
Yeah,
dude, I can't take.
It's wild how much impact that's still being, that level of control that's still being exercised. Like
it's true. Yeah. Wow.
Even down to like, we can get all into like the pharmaceutical side of things, but and vaccines and all those things. But it's like, that's a lot of flex of muscle right there that's still being felt.
And by the way, nobody's being held accountable.
Zero.
Isn't that the craziest part?
Yeah.
And by talking about this, people are just like, they're just beating a dead horse. And it's like, yeah, of course, because that's what happened, right? They made you forget.
They
They
distract you with the next thing.
The next PSYOP. Right? The next PSYOP.
Look over
what
here.
took us away from COVID, and then what took us away from this, and what took us away from this, and then what created this. And it's like, I think that there is a very clear agenda. I don't know who runs it. I don't know who's in charge of it.
You can theorize, conspiracy theorize a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
But like in a way, like you see the psychology of nations and of people. Like you go back to like World War II and you look how galvanized the US was, and they're like, man, and they believed in something. And I think they look at that and go like, how can we reproduce that in a way that we want?
Yeah. Well, going into World War II that's
I know that's probably like a box for you.
No, that's not, dude. That's not a box. I don't have any boxes. I'm willing to talk about anything.
Yeah.
Is that if that's what you meant? I'm willing to talk about anything.
You're good.
But with World War II, the problem is there's just so much nuance to it.
Oh yeah.
I will just say that, and this is what I've always said, when you talk about like propaganda, when you talk about controlling the narrative, in World War II, you had written marketing. Like you had newspapers.
Oh yeah, that was kind of like the birth of like original PR, was like that era of time.
Yeah, and when you see that on a newspaper, and that's Bible. Like, oh, this is what's happening.
This is what's real.
Oh, okay. Well, this is what we need to do, right?
Yeah.
It's not like today where you have social media and you have the internet and things like
now.
Exactly, and they pay attention. So it's like even like I don't know if you remember the Psyop with the Ukraine war. Do you remember the whole thing about Skull Island, or was it not Skull Island? What was it called? Was it Skull Island? I can't remember. The whole story that they spun about the island where they were killing babies, and then there was also the ghost of Kiev, who ended up being
super wild.
They were using footage from a video game, and they made up the entire thing. The story was there was an island where they were defending against Russia or whatever, and there were like missiles being fired and tanks, and it was all bullcrap.
All of it, yeah.
And it took like a week, maybe even less, for people to figure that out. And that is just the power of
the speed of it now.
Exactly. That's why I think that is why, going back to what I said, why they need to continue to just develop these psyops over and over and over. And what's crazy is when people talk about this, they seem crazy, but it's not crazy. And I'm talking to somebody who's been in Intel, so you know it's not crazy.
I mean, I know you like to read.
I love reading. Yeah.
Can I swear on here? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you've ever read these books, but The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yes.
Great book.
I have
The
it.
second one.
I think it's down here.
The second one, Everything is Fucked.
Yeah.
Has huge sections about modern PR and how it evolved.
Oh, I have to check that one out.
It's awesome. You
Really?
would love it. You would love it.
I'll have to check that one out. Well, who's it by?
Mark Manson, same author.
Oh, okay.
So Everything's Fucked is the sequel, the follow-up book.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I didn't know he had a sequel.
Yeah,
That's
great.
awesome. Yeah, I love that book. That book is so good.
That's one everyone should read.
Yeah, for sure. I love that book. I think I read it twice, actually. It's here somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's like...
I read that book during my chemotherapy for cancer. And that was huge for me. Because it changed my mindset. Like sitting there in the chemo chair, reading that book. That's what
Wait, you chemo chair?
Yeah.
Oh, like, say that again.
That's when I got intro to Mark Manson, and that book was in the middle of my chemotherapy for cancer.
Hold on. I didn't even know that about you.
Yeah, that's why we have these conversations.
Wow. So, okay. So you're also a cancer survivor.
Yes.
Jeez, dude. That's crazy. Congratulations.
No, thank you.
That's awesome.
It's been like 6 years now, so we're good. We're in the clear. But
that's awesome. What, if you don't mind me asking, what kind was it and everything?
I had colon cancer.
Okay.
So like it was pretty, like, because I've always been like an athletic person, and like I spent a summer just every time I ate I got sick, and like for a week you're like, okay, maybe a stomach bug, but like for 3 months you're like, there's no way. And so like I had a great doctor. He tested everything. He tested every food allergy you could think of, all that stuff. He's like, you were like puking, like you just got sick. Yeah. And I was like, dude, we're just gonna have to scope you. So he scoped me from one end to the other, and he found a big tumor in my intestines. Jeez. Had a surgery. They removed like a little over a foot of my intestines and some lymph nodes and some spare parts. And they sewed me back up. And then I did like 12 rounds of chemotherapy, and
wow,
we were good. But
dude, good for you, man.
That's all good.
No, that's awesome.
I remember
I'm
when
happy
he came
to
in and
hear
told
you.
me.
I'm happy you're here.
He came in and told me, he sat down, and he was so,
yeah. What was that like?
He was so sober. My wife's sitting right there, and he's like, he breaks the news to me. I'm like, well, as long as I don't lose my hair. And my wife smacks me. She's like, what? Like, I'm sorry, I can't not right now. Because like, if I have to deal with that without humor, I don't think I could. But
yeah. What? Yeah, man, I can't imagine. It's awesome though that you broke with humor, and your wife was probably so pissed.
Oh, she was so mad. She's like, stop it.
She's like, what are you doing?
Take this seriously.
You know what though? I feel like anybody I know that has gone through that, they are like you. They're everybody that I know that has beat it. It's all about the optimism.
It's got to be, because as soon as you surrender that and you're like, I'm going to die, that's
Your body gives
that's
up.
when it starts to win. Like,
Yeah.
and that sounds very unscientific, but it's very psychological.
No, but the thing is, even if it sounds like it's unscientific, you're not the first person. You're like the 10th person I've talked to that has said that exact thing.
And when you sit in a room with other patients doing that and you see one after the other not come back, you're like, not me.
And the nurses, I've even heard the nurses say that. The nurses say the most. So they say two things. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they say that the more athletic or built you already were.
Dude, I never stopped lifting, even during chemo.
Yeah. Well, and you lifted before that.
Yeah.
So they say the more athletic and the more built you are before that.
Definitely.
Because you have more muscle mass to
Absolutely
lose, basically, and to burn through, right? But then also,
your body has more weapons to fight back with.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting, dude.
And it was funny because, like, I did my first chemotherapy and I was like, I was kind of sick, felt like garbage. And I went into my second one, and I used to have a port in my chest. Like, it combines with an artery that goes straight into your blood system. So it was like right here. And they plugged me in with my special cocktail, and it starts pumping. And I was like, hey guys, I don't feel very good. Like, I feel really bad. They're like, oh, that's normal. I'm like, no, like, I'm having trouble breathing. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. And that's when I started like convulsing, like full anaphylactic. And I ended up being allergic to one of the drugs that they put in there. So I'm just like, I've lost full control. I'm just like seizing. And all I can see is the crash cart in front of me with all my vitals on it, you know? And I'm just watching it, and I'm seeing them scurry about, and I'm just watching it. I'm like, well, I can see my heart rate. I can see my blood pressure. And so I just focused on those. And I got those down. Like, I got my heart rate down to like the 70 something. And I got my blood pressure down to normal.
Like you did.
Just looking at it. Just looking at it. And then Glenn, the chemo nurse was there. He takes this giant syringe of like, whatchamacallit, the
adrenaline?
No, like where you give people with an allergy.
Oh, EpiPen.
Yeah, like it's just straight into my port though. So it was like boom, and it was just like instantly high. But I was like, whoa. And then, but afterwards, like we're debriefing all this, and my doctor's like, I don't know what you did, but if you hadn't done that, you probably wouldn't have made it.
Dude, isn't it incredible how the more stories I hear about this, the more I just realize like how incredible the human body really is and the human mind. Like,
and who's in control?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you say that experience, I mean, this may be a stupid question because I know that it normally does for everybody, but did it honestly change the trajectory of your life after that?
Absolutely.
And in what way? Like, were you planning on doing something else and then just totally shifted?
I mean, I was pretty much set on like, I'm just going to do law enforcement till the day I die. Like, maybe I'll retire someday, but like that.
Is that what got you into jiu-jitsu? Like full-time jiu-jitsu?
That's what got me into full-time jiu-jitsu. Like really, that's what motivated me to want to do that.
That's what I mean, full-time.
Because I was still working law enforcement while I was sick. And I had a really awesome sheriff at the time. And I came in like, and I was like an emotional wreck about it. Like I came in and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. And he got up out of his desk and he came over, he gave me a big old hug. Sheriff Henry works up on campus now. He gave me a big old hug. He's like, we don't throw away people. Like, you're going to be fine.
That's cool.
And he was super cool about it, worked with me through my treatment and everything like that. And, but the goal was always like to make, at that point, I was like, because it changed kind of my perspective on a lot of things. Because
how so? Like
in a lot of ways, like, and a lot of these guys don't realize it. They work law enforcement for year after year after year after year, decade after decade. And they might, and they're all, a lot of them really great guys, but they don't realize how jaded those experiences in that job makes you and how much that sets you at odds with just the average person because you think everybody's a piece of crap. And that's just the jaded nature that it does to you. And to think that doesn't affect you, you're lying to yourself. But taking that little like detachment, and it softened me. It softened my heart. It like made me realize, because there were people that were so charitable to me during that event. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, most people are good.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that. Like, most people are good. It made me a little bit more teary-eyed. Like, I'd cry at stupid like toilet paper commercials and crap like that. But and that was fine. It's like, okay, I could tap into a part of my emotional intelligence that I'd kind of like stuffed down for a lot of years, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that changed my perspective just on humanity. It's like, most people are good. Most people just need a break. Most people are dealing with something really heavy right now. But once you've like kind of like accepted the fact that, okay, I might die from this, but by God, I'm going to go out swinging. Like everything else is kind of like smaller in comparison.
Right.
It's not as big a deal.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, it kind of broke my give a damn because you're just not going to make me care about something that truly does not matter anymore. Like I just can't. And not that law enforcement doesn't matter because it's a very noble profession, but I wanted to have a bigger reach. I wanted to do bigger things and do other things. I wanted to build my school. I wanted to teach jiu-jitsu all over the world. And I've gotten to do all those things because I unpigeonholed myself from just working a same old shift.
How'd you unpigeonhole yourself?
Well, I started not to get too in the logistics of it, but and I'm sure you can appreciate this because it's like you can work a 9 to 5-er your whole life, and that's fine.
Yep.
And if you're happy doing that, God bless you.
Mm-hmm.
But once you realize like, hey, you could do more, or you could do something different, or you could do something that can make you more happy, that'll probably be better for you.
Or you realize that you're meant to.
Or you're meant to.
Yeah.
You're meant to do something else.
Yeah.
Or that, and it's not even that like I wasn't meant to do law enforcement. It's just I'd done all the things, and now it was time to do something else.
Yes.
And I think timing matters.
I completely understand that.
It was totally time.
I completely understand that, and I always relate it to. I've talked about this multiple times. It's fulfillment. Like I think we are meant to chase fulfillment, not success, and I think that fulfillment is based on time. I think I think like all throughout my career before this and everything else, there were multiple times where it was like, okay, I feel pretty fulfilled here. Right. But then something happens and it's like,
and it changes.
It changes. There's a gap. That fulfillment's not there. So I have to pivot and I have to do something else, whether that's in that same field or completely different. And that's
I think most people are scared to do that.
They are. And I think it also comes from they're not in tune with you can call this God, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but I just think that they're not in tune with understanding when they are fulfilled. Yeah. I think a lot of people lack the understanding of being truly fulfilled. We live in a world where people are constantly chasing things other than fulfillment. I mean, I'm guilty of it too, right?
I've done it for years.
But when you are truly just chasing that fulfillment and the things that make you feel really fulfilled.
And I don't care what that is. Like if it's mopping floors and you feel great about that, and man, do that.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's probably you know how many amazing janitors there probably are in the world, dude? Fry cooks, like, dude, there's probably, I mean, there's so many cool people. That's another thing the internet has allowed us to see. I mean, think about how many weird TikTok pages are out there that like, it's the most random person doing the most random thing, but they love their life and they love what they're doing and they give so much joy to everybody else, you know? So I actually completely understand that, and I think it's definitely how I've like directed my life. And
I think that's a good guiding guideline.
It's not easy.
It's not,
but
because you're probably going to lose money. You're probably going to have to invest a lot of time. You're going to invest some sweat equity in there, and it's going to suck some days.
Yeah. Yeah, but it also acts as kind of a North Star, kind of like literal compass. I mean,
stay the course.
You know, I told you that we went down in West North Carolina. So where'd you serve your mission? I
served in
Were you on
the
West
eastern
side?
half
You were
of
in
North
East side.
Carolina.
Okay.
So everything from Raleigh to the coast.
Okay, so when the hurricane hit West North Carolina, like a week after I went down there, so we raised a little over $200,000.
That's awesome.
On my Instagram, yeah. For and then literally we just went down there and we gave the money to businesses, families, things like that.
It's pretty amazing.
It was awesome, man. And that's actually how I kind of got started with this whole thing too, back in 2020. That's really what happened. I don't need to go into that, but I'll do that on another episode. But like, what I'm getting at is, at the point when I went down to West North Carolina, I would be lying if I said that part of it wasn't selfish.
Right.
Like, it's just the reality. And not selfish monetarily, selfish.
And I think that's the misconception, is like, you can get something out of it for you too.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
not necessarily monetarily. Like
yes. Well, and you said it at the beginning. You said, what did you say? You said that I can't remember your exact words, but basically you just said that like you wanted to be more, you wanted to do more than just be, the I can't remember exactly how you put it, but that's ultimately how I've done this. Like when I first started with social media, I didn't want to just be the conspiracy theorist. I wanted to actually make a difference. So we got involved with businesses, things like that. And when West North Carolina happened, I was definitely in a place where I felt like I was just that influencer that was constantly rapping online, selling t-shirts, and just falling into that same category of all these other people that talk a lot and don't do a whole lot. And it was another time where I was like, that was my lack of fulfillment. And being able to do what I did with West North Carolina and being able to be involved. And dude, we went down there. Like we went down there and we worked, we helped, move trees away from houses. We helped people.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we did a lot. We got involved with
and it gives you a little taste of like, oh, that's awesome.
For sure. That's a whole other story. But like being involved in that stuff, like we were involved in retrieval. We were involved in, the horrific things. And like, I always say that it was one of the most fulfilling and like the word, what's the word I always use? Now I'm drawing a blank. Like, it's hard to explain. It's really hard to explain because it was such a heavy and such a hard thing to deal with and see and experience. And the amount of people that were just completely devastated and having to see that devastation and just know that like I can only do so much.
Right.
It was one of the most life-changing events I've ever gone through, but also one of the most sobering. And like, but I will say that it definitely made me feel like I was fulfilled again. It made me feel like, okay, I'm doing more than just talking. I'm doing more than just like not actually contributing to this problem. And
this is what I need to be doing.
Yes. And honestly, man, like if I had the means, if I had the financial means and the ability to do that for the rest of my life,
absolutely,
I would do it. I would do it every single time disaster hit. I would be there to help out every single time. And because there's nothing like it. There's nothing like helping people. There's nothing like giving somebody a check for 20 grand after they've lost everything and saying, and it was so, I'm going to get emotional.
You're good.
It was so cool because all of these people that we helped, they were the people that were helping their communities the most.
Right.
And everyone said it. Like anytime we went into these towns, because it's like, what do? You literally pick a driveway and everybody had issues. Everybody had lost everything. And so it's like, who do we give this money to? And part of it was kind of being guided by God, but also part of it was literally just going in and saying to the person who's in charge of this, like, who needs it the most? Yeah. It's such a hard question to ask.
What do we need? Where is it at?
But honestly, every single time someone had an answer, that business, that family, they give everything. They're constantly looking out for everybody else. And to be able to go to these people and say, it's your turn. Like,
pretty cool.
Now it's your turn. You've given, and because, dude, I mean, you probably know this about North Carolinians. It was the first time that I've ever really been so fully immersed into that state and those people.
There's a culture there about that.
Oh, every single person we talked to that we tried to offer something to, no, give it to somebody who needs it more. Yep. Give it to somebody who needs it more. Give it to somebody who needs it more. And it's like, dude, you're standing in front of your house that's gone. You have nothing. What do you mean who needs it more? Like,
like you need it.
You need it. Yeah. But they were so
that's so very much them though.
It is. They were so humble. It reminded me a lot about my mission, honestly. Nicaraguans are the same way. And it was just, anyway, it just, that is the kind of fulfillment that I feel like we as human beings are meant to experience. But so many have not experienced that because they're unwilling, like you said, to take that like leap of faith and actually
put themselves in
the situation to do it, you know?
And there's no special skill.
No.
There's no special like person.
None.
It's like, you just got to put yourself in the position to help.
That's right. That's right.
A lot of times. It's like people think of like the ideal soldier or the ideal like law enforcement or the ideal firefighter. It's like the ideal one is the one that's willing to go in.
Right.
Because I've had a lot of people that I've worked with over the years that you thought they were going in with you and they didn't.
Yeah.
And then there's other ones who like, maybe they weren't the fastest, the strongest, the smartest, but they were right behind me.
Right.
And those are the people you need.
Yes.
And those are the people you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think it's also, you know, just going with law enforcement, dude. I wasn't just a rebel when I was younger. I also had a healthy distaste for law enforcement.
So did I.
Oh, dude.
I had, okay. So in that little town in Alaska, there's like 2 troopers stationed there at any time because they have to swap.
Yeah.
Who's on shift.
Yeah.
But Trooper Grimmy, which is a funny last name. But
Grimmy?
Grimmy.
Like the Grim Reaper?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was like the most sober dude you ever met. Like never cracked a smile. Like I tried my whole teenage life to get that guy to laugh. Never succeeded. And then I remember I was sitting there like in my interview when I very first got my very first law enforcement job. And they're like, what would happen if we called back home to your local agency and asked them about you? I'm like, I don't know. And they called him while I was sitting there, and they called Trooper Grimmy, and he started laughing on the phone. He's like, you're punking me. Like, there's no way that kid is applying for a law enforcement job.
That's funny.
I was like, finally got him.
That's funny. You know, oh man, you said something that made me think, that's what it was. I had a healthy distaste for law enforcement pretty much my whole like young adult life. And I actually had a crazy, the only time I've ever been arrested. It's a crazy, I'll just tell you.
Nice. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, a lot of people probably don't know this. So this was I think this was 2000, I want to say it was like 2012 or 13. I can't remember the exact date. I'd have to look it up. But I was out, so I did door-to-door sales for like 10 plus years. I was out selling in Indiana. And this was during the Heat Pacers finals.
Okay.
And we got tickets. I can't even remember which game it was. I think it was like game 4 maybe. Anyway, we got tickets, and at the time, not so much now, but I was a huge LeBron fan. I have so many LeBron jerseys right now, and anyway, that's that's another sore subject. But anyway, and by the way, it's partially political for that, but it's not really all political. It's mostly just because I'm kind of disillusioned of him as a player.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
There's another Psyops.
Yeah. What's the Michael Jordan movie? That one, the documentary of Michael Jordan ruined.
The Last Dance?
The Last Dance ruined LeBron for me. Ruined.
Love that.
I used to fight my father-in-law to the death about LeBron and Michael Jordan. Right. That documentary changed everything.
I love that documentary.
As soon as I watched it, I was like, yeah, he's not even close to his
Not
level.
even close.
Not even close. Not even close. Anyway, so we're in Indiana, and we go to this game, and me and my buddy, we're all Heat fans, right? Because my buddy's an actual Heat fan, and then I'm a LeBron fan, and my other buddy's a LeBron fan. So we're all wearing Heat and LeBron jerseys. And I was actually wearing the Olympic jersey, so it wasn't even a Heat jersey. It was his Olympic jersey.
Pretty benign.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, so so the game ends, and we go to leave. And if you've ever been to I think it's called Bankers Fieldhouse or something like Bankers Life Fieldhouse, something like that. But it's the way it's set up is you have the doors right here, and then there's like 3 huge, like kind of not sidewalks, but like 3 levels that are probably, I don't know, 5 yards each. So do until you get to the sidewalk and then the road, right? Okay. So it's like this big long entryway to the main building. Anyway, we walk out. And as we walk out, these doors lock behind you. They lock from the outside. So there's no way to get in once you're out. And in this section anyway. And when we walk out, I was like, oh crap. And I remembered that they were doing the post conference and that Shaq was in there. Or not Shaq, Charles Barkley. And I was like, dude, we gotta go. I want to go listen to Barkley. Like, what are we doing? And it wasn't anything nefarious. Like, I wasn't trying to do anything crazy. I wasn't trying to break back in or anything. I just had this thought of, oh, wait, I want to see the press conference. We shouldn't have walked out. We should go back in. So you have to understand, hundreds, if not thousands of people are filing out of this place.
Right. You're swimming upstream.
Yeah. I'm swimming upstream. The doors are open. And I'm like, let's just go back in really quick. We don't have to like sneak. Just walk back in when they open the door. So sure enough, open the door. Crowd comes out. I go to walk back in. Something yanks on my shoulder, like just yanks me back. And it's this cop. And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing, dude. Just came out of the game. I just wanted to see Barkley. Like, that's all. I actually like downplayed it because I was like, it's really not a big deal, right? And dude, he was on one. And he was just like, get out of here now. And I was like, okay. I can't even remember if they lost or not. I think they lost, and he was just soggy about it.
He was salty.
Yeah, but salty, not soggy. But anyway.
Maybe he was. I don't know.
He may wanted to. But anyway, he so again, there's those levels, right? So we walk past the first level, and again, tons of people. Like, it's a sea of people out there, and they're all tailgating. They're not just walking, they're hanging out on this like entryway and having a good time. So we walk to this next place, and I'm like, oh, we'll just get out of his hair, right? So we go to like the end of the first entryway, and we're just standing there. Sure enough, he comes up again and gets in my face, like spitting in my face. Get out of here. I told you to leave, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to arrest you for trespassing. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? There's like hundreds of people out here. And like, I don't drink. Like, I don't drink. I'm not high. Like, I'm just this freaking LDS salesman kid, 20 something years old.
Game.
Like, yeah, dude, at a basketball game. I'm like, I'm not actually causing any problems or anything. So I'm like, all right, whatever, man, this is crazy. So again, we leave, but this time we go to the third one, and we're there and we're hanging out. And this time we're with a bunch of like with a bunch of Pacers fans, and just, you know, hanging out or whatever. Dude, 5 minutes later, this same cop comes up, and he is livid. He's like, I told you to get out of here. What are you doing? Blah, 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 blah.
Oh,
just getting in my face, to the point where the Pacers fans are uncomfortable, and they're like, dude, he's okay. He's with us. And he would not, he's like up in my face. This guy was short too. He's up in my face and just won't relent. And I'm like, okay, dude, okay. Like, I get it. I'm gone. And so I leave, and I go to the sidewalk.
Just getting further and further away.
Further and further away. And this time I'm on the
yet?
sidewalk. Like, I'm pretty far away from him. I'm like, all right, there's no problem here, right? Like,
it can't be.
He comes up again, and he's like, I'm gonna cuff you if you don't leave right now. And I'm like, dude, I'm on the sidewalk. He's like, the sidewalk is for walking. Walk. And dude, when he said that, I was like, something snapped, and I was like, I didn't hit him. I didn't say. All I did was I said to my buddies, I said, all right, this guy's obviously on a power trip, and I turn around, straight up suplex to the ground, face to the pavement, handcuffs, paddy wagon, out, and I get to the holding cell, and go up to the guy at the desk, and I'm like, look, man, you get this daily, I'm sure dozens of times, but there is absolutely no reason for me to be here right now. Like, I feel like I was discriminated against because of the jersey I was wearing. And he goes, oh, you came for the Pacers game? And I said, yeah. He said, well, tell me what happened. I got time. And I was like, okay. So I told him that same story, and he goes, yeah, you picked the wrong cop, wrong night. You didn't do anything wrong. And I was like, okay, so there's got to be something I can do, right? Like, can I just get out of here? And he's like, nope, you got to wait. He's going to book you, and he's probably going to take the max amount of time. And when that time is up, you're either going to go before the judge or you're not. And we'll just have to figure that out. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. He's like, nope, take a seat. I was like, oh my gosh, 17 hours.
Oh, wow.
That son of a bitch kept me in there for 17 hours.
Wow.
I watched girls basketball, but worse, dude, college girls basketball, and ate the nastiest bologna sandwich. And I will never forget it, dude. And it was and I never went before the judge, and I never actually got charged. He put me in there for criminal trespassing and criminal trespassing and like mischief, something. I can't remember. Criminal mischief, something like that. They weren't like felony. They were just like nothing. And never charged me, nothing. But
so many things to unpack there.
so many things. But dude, you know, it's interesting because I held that same resentment, and we'll get into
that's what that does
for sure. And I did, and I was like, because that guy was a total piece of crap, dude. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I didn't do anything wrong. He just straight up didn't like me because of the jersey that I was wearing. It was wild. Coincidentally, dude, I started throwing parties in Rexburg, and I met Rhodes.
And that changes.
It changed everything, dude. It changed because it made me realize, oh no, there's like really good cops out there.
And when I think of good cops, I think of guys like Josh Rhodes.
Yes.
Who are the opposite of what
the exact opposite. Yeah. So yeah, when it came to the BLM riots, when it came to George Floyd specifically, and when it came to that whole situation, I saw that for being a psyop. I saw that for being a massive, like an event that was meant, especially the BLM riots. Because again, dude, I did events, like I did parties. I know what it takes to organize an event in Rexburg, Idaho. It takes months of preparation to have all that pop off simultaneously in all these different cities across the country.
I know no such thing as coincidences.
Like I get that there's a nuance of like, okay, yeah, but one thing might spark the other because of social media, but it's like, they don't all show up at the same time.
That's a lot. That's a lot of like that just happens.
So anyway, I do want to, can you speak to the Chauvin George Floyd thing? Because there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of, rumors, and then there's also a lot of opinions, but I think someone like you can actually speak to that with like authority.
And something like, because
did he kill him? Did he mean to kill him?
I think I think it was probably intentional. If not intentional, it was reckless. At minimally reckless.
Why do you say that?
Because that's a very dangerous technique to use. And that's not like, oh, we didn't know that's a dangerous technique to use. Like responsible agencies and responsible modern training doesn't use that technique because it is dangerous.
Wasn't it in the handbook though?
A lot of these agencies are using programs and curriculums that are decades and decades old. And they're not.
I did read somewhere that it was an older handbook that hadn't been updated or whatever. Or
and a lot of them are going off of that stuff, and it's tragic in a way because it results in scenarios like that, where it's a dangerous thing that didn't have to be. I've dealt with guys that big, that high, that violent by myself. Not saying I'm some bad A that can do that, but like I can train any cop to do that.
Right.
Not saying that they have to do that. Hopefully they have a partner to back them up, but I can train teams of them to handle that situation in safer, better ways. And it goes back to like when we criticize our elected officials, like we we're talking about, we should be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
We should be able to hold people accountable, but there's an industry in law enforcement that needs to be modernized. And in a lot of ways we're doing that. It's just growing pains. Mm-hmm. And we're ahead of the game in a lot of places. Idaho is actually one of them. Idaho is a lot further along than a lot of places. We have a jiu-jitsu based program that we use in Idaho. I train a lot of the new cops. I train all the baby cops. I go up to post. I go up to the academy and I train them in how to do these things correctly. Right. You still run into problems? Sure, but not nearly as many. Nearly as many.
And because of the training.
It's training. So it's a training issue. It's a personnel issue because you run into these cops. Derek Chauvin was not a new problem. They're like, oh, we didn't even know this guy was an issue. That guy had problems for years.
Really?
And they knew it.
He had a rap sheet.
Yeah, definitely a consistent behavioral problem but again, in the industry, there's an issue and you can get into police unions and different things like that keep actors like that in play.
Like the police officer.
Right.
You can't just fire him?
No, that's a very difficult thing to do, especially in places like Minneapolis where they have very strong police unions. I'm not anti-union. I'm in anti-overreach because there were powers that union should have had that it never should have had. And it kept people like that in play. And really, in reality, we should have the ability to remove those actors.
Yeah,
they're not that many of them.
Right.
There's really not. I would like guess if I just like throw, because everybody loves throwing random statistics out there, but like the majority, like 90-something% of cops are good dudes doing their job. And then there's a small percentage that taint the well like they did with you.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. I mean, like I said, I experienced it. And that, so, I'm definitely not like, I'm not one to believe that Chauvin was completely innocent or anything. Like, I know that.
But I don't think he was solely responsible. I think other people within that situation should be held accountable for what all transpired.
Right. Well, and also I think multiple things can be true at once, right? Like,
right, exactly.
They obviously were responsible for it in their ways, but then also George Floyd was responsible because of how much freaking drugs were in his system and, all that. So I think it all just
if I go to work as a cop and some dude fights me, I don't know all of his medical conditions. He's got a heart condition, has a heart attack.
Right.
That cop's not responsible for that because he took every due precaution and tried to do his job correctly.
But Chauvin didn't.
So that's
it was the perfect storm.
So yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
But it goes back to trying to make things partisan. Like, oh, I'm on this side of it. I'm on this side of it. Like, no, actually, there's a lot of things going on.
And you have to be able to consider both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, going on that too, like, I don't know if you've heard all the crazy stuff about him, but dude, apparently him and so George Floyd and Chauvin apparently were bouncers together at a club.
They worked together.
Like,
they knew each other.
Okay, so
which is really wild.
It's not only wild, it's really weird, and it's one of those things where it's like, how many
another layer of context?
Yes, and it goes back to the whole thing of like, okay, did the murder come before the psyop or the psyop before the murder?
Yep, same question, right?
In your opinion, what is it?
I think something transpired ahead of time, and this was retribution. I do. Like, that's a total assumption.
You think like Chauvin?
Yeah,
he was getting back at him.
Yeah,
it's interesting. That's what Joe Rogan actually said on his show. He said that was. He didn't say that that's what happened, but he said that was his opinion.
I would say that's my opinion. Just like unevidentiary, just shooting. I would say.
And so that situation. So do you believe that situation alone, it was caused by the retaliation from whatever happened?
From whatever.
But then, do you believe that it just happened to get caught on camera and then it blew up the way it did, and then it was capitalized on?
I think it would. Yeah, I think it because very rarely,
like, was it an organic?
I tell this to cops all the time. You will be filmed. Like, everything you just pretend everything you do is being caught on camera, because it probably is.
Yeah.
And I think that happened organically, and then someone thought, I'm not going to let this go. I'm not going to let this tragedy go to waste.
Yeah.
And they capitalized on it, which is disgusting.
Yes.
But it happened.
And I think that's where I'm at. I think that's where I'm at with this. I think, because again, we've gotten to a place in society where it's like multiple things can't be true. Like, if it's this, if it's black, it must be white.
They think it's an either or.
Yeah. And it's like, that's not the case. Was Derek Chauvin a piece of crap?
The world is so gray.
Probably. Yeah. Did he do something he shouldn't have done? Was he overly aggressive, and did he use, lethal force when he shouldn't have, and do things that cops shouldn't do? Yes, probably. And then at the same time, was George Floyd a pillar of society? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Was he a criminal? Yes. Did he have tons of drugs in his system? Yes. Did that all create the perfect storm? And is there some weird background for it? Yes.
Yes.
And then did someone just happen to catch that perfect event on camera? And then,
like you said,
who capitalized?
Chicken egg? Yeah. Maybe they were looking for an event like that because it was ripe for it.
It was right before it. And so, and so that's something to be said too. Like, who caught it, and that's something we'll never know.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
But everything that followed after that, I think we can all agree on the fact that was a massive psyop.
Yeah.
And organizations like BLM, I mean, they've been exposed now.
You take things, BLM, and you take targets like cops, and cops are easy targets.
Yeah.
Because they're not supposed to fight back on you. Like, not like what I mean, like publicly, like argue with you online and things like that. There's policies against it.
Right.
So they're an easy target that you can attack as far as PR.
Well, and when so going back to when I started speaking up in 2020, it was actually because of the BLM riots. And the main thing that I was talking about was the fact that, guys, this is orchestrated. Like, there are pallets of bricks being laid at the front of these buildings. It's not a construction site.
It's not a construction site. Why is that there?
Yeah.
Why is this here?
And then all of these people dressed in black, like,
too orchestrated.
100%, dude. And then whoever it is that orchestrated that whole thing, I believe 100% orchestrated the burning down of Minneapolis. And that was Minneapolis, and everything that happened in that city with the precinct and everything, like, that was it was like a catalyst. Yeah, and that was like the thing they needed. That was like the event, right? That was event 0 or whatever. Like, they needed that event to be able to kick off everything else, all the policies, all the politics, all the race wars, everything that came before COVID. And I said that in 2020. I said, this is an event that's going to determine the next 3 to 5 years. And I was right. And the other thing that I showed, though, was the 2 highlights I made on my Instagram. One was called The Darkness, and it was kind of a play on black and white, right? Like, the darkness was all the ugly stuff that you saw in the mainstream media.
Right.
All the fire, all the hatred, all the fighting between the cops and the civilians and all that stuff. And then I did one called The Light, and it was all the stuff the mainstream media wasn't showing you that was coming off on social media, with cops kneeling with protesters.
Right.
And protesters bringing water to cops that were standing in line for 3 hours in the hot sun in front of a
Yeah,
angry
that
mob and
doesn't
like,
sell.
no,
That
and
doesn't sell
that's
the narrative.
no, it doesn't. And that's what made me believe that thing was an absolute psyop. And like looking back too, I think that I had those experiences that I had throughout my life because it got me to a place where when that happened, I was like, no, the cops are not the bad guys.
They're not the bad guys. It
Like,
gives you
this
some
is
perspective, though.
stupid. Defund the police. They're the ones that are there to protect you.
Right.
And
Especially like elected ones like your sheriff's office and places. You chose them to protect you.
Yeah.
That's what their whole job is, and they know it.
Yeah.
So you
But
don't
I mean,
want, you don't want to get rid of that.
But that's the thing. It wasn't the people that were saying that. I mean, I know that there were probably people that jumped in,
right.
but they were influenced heavily by actual real terrorist organization.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
And
that's
what
what
I
BLM
would
was.
classify BLM as. Like,
It's
if
a
you had to,
terrorist
like,
organization.
It's a terrorist organization.
It is. It's a Marxist terrorist organization.
Worse than any gang I've ever dealt with because they're way too organized.
Soros.
Yeah.
And dude, here's the other thing too. Even coming back to like recently, right?
Yeah.
What was that thing that just popped off? The hands off day. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
It was the hands off protest. So an entire day, multiple cities, they were all protesting like Doge and like Trump and his cabinet having their hands on our government and everything like that. It was called hands off. And what's so crazy to me is as it's happening, you have so many people that are believing this is an organic thing. And I'm like, who gave them the signs? And hold on, it gets better. Who came up with the name? And how did everyone simultaneously in every single city across the country, one day to the next, all of a sudden just know that they needed to make a sign that said hands off, and that it's a campaign.
That's a PR campaign.
It's a campaign. That's how campaigns work.
That's how they work.
And man, we are just so stupid.
But we're easy to get spoon fed. Like, easy answers are nice because
we believe the Jurassic Park.
We believe Jurassic.
We believe the dinosaurs live.
Is that your dinosaur? Is that your dinosaur?
I think it is, dude. Hands off. I think hands off. Hands off was a dinosaur, man. It's
I think it was.
Crazy.
I think it was.
I actually, the more that this stuff happens, the more that I believe if they actually tried to pull off. Do you know what Project Bluebeam is?
No.
Project Bluebeam is the idea that they're gonna stage a fake alien invasion.
Oh yes, no.
To control like one religion or whatever. Honestly, the more this stuff happens, I'm like, people will totally believe it.
Yeah.
If they actually did that, because that's your Jurassic Park with astral projection and all that crazy stuff.
I can't prove that aliens don't exist. Maybe they do.
Oh, I believe aliens exist.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they're gonna anyway.
Right.
It's a whole other thing. But so when you were talking about the BLM and protests and all that kind of stuff, you were talking about Pocatello. So
Pocatello. I mean, Pocatello's obviously.
What's going on, right? Like, why were you saying that it's?
Well, in the news right now, like Pocatello's had a couple shootings lately because it's a city and cities have shootings.
There's something. Isn't there something crazy happening right now?
Right now. So just a few days ago, they had an incident, and I'm not going to like say like this is a good shoot or a bad shoot because it's still being investigated. I haven't seen the footage. But basically, I'll give you the synopsis of the story. There was a special needs teenager who was wielding a knife in his front yard. Long story short.
Oh, I saw that.
It ended up with a shooting. They shot him.
I saw that. Times. I didn't know that was Pocatello.
That's Pocatello.
Dude,
so you have a lot of
outcry. I saw it on Twitter.
What's that?
It's all over Twitter.
All over the place.
But I didn't know I didn't know it was Idaho though.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's all over online right now, and they're calling for the mayor to step down. They're calling for their police chief to step down. And it's all like this online outrage because, and rightfully so, people are hurting. Like that family's hurting, and they have the right to feel that pain. Those cops are hurting, which is probably getting very much negated right now.
So cops are always the last ones.
I know. And they're getting vilified online, of course, and I'm not saying it was a good shoot. I'm not saying it was a bad shoot. But the reality of it is, it's like you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because I have trained many of those Pocatello cops. And I know that the vast majority of them are great, not just good cops, they are great cops.
I've been around a lot of them, dude. Whenever we do the state fair every year.
Yeah.
I've been around a lot of those guys.
And their police chief, Roger Shai, is a friend of mine. But I can speak to his character, and you don't want to get rid of that guy. That guy's your best bet.
But now he's the target.
He's one of them because he's the face of it.
And it's all politics.
That's politics. And he's up for it, and he's there for that community. And he loves that community more than they will ever know. But that's the guy you want in that position, especially on days like this.
All these situations that seem to be the same, where it's so disgusting, because what it seems like to me, and dude, if I'm wrong, correct me, but it just seems to me like these situations, our humanity and our deepest tragedies are weaponized against us for political reasons.
Yes.
Like this seems like, I don't know a lot about this situation. All I know is what I've seen online, but it seems like it's just another one of those things where they are using this absolutely horrific, tragic incident to weaponize our emotions against the police force or the politicians or whatever, and it's all because of political motive or political motives.
They teach you this in public relations. It's like if I wanted to convince a person, like motivate a person, I'm typically going to use some kind of emotional appeal. If I want to convince groups of people, bigger emotional appeal.
Yep.
If I want to convince a corporation or a business, I use a very logical appeal, numbers and spreadsheets, right?
Interesting.
And that convinces where the money needle moves businesses. Emotional appeals move people, and they need that emotional appeal.
Well, I mean,
to move.
That makes complete sense, because that's also something I've said since the beginning. Like you have to use. I mean, why is it that the riots were all based on race? Why is it that it seems like
because racism is bad.
Exactly.
We can say
and
that
it's an emotional thing.
And it's an emotional reaction.
And it's a line. It's a line that you draw. Like, that's easily drawn.
Yeah.
And then the next thing would be religion.
It's easy to vilify that.
And I'm going to have to dig this up, because literally like 2.5 years ago, I feel like I posted something that said the next one will be religion. And sure enough, right now, the biggest thing in the news, the issue at hand is all based on religion. And the craziest thing is, it's religions that we don't even have anything to do with. Right. Isn't that the weirdest thing? Like, there's people of those religions in this country.
Sure,
but like that actual conflict and that religious conflict, guess what? We have nothing to do with it, but they have somehow convinced us all.
Because people draw a line.
That's right.
There's an emotional
because you draw an emotional line based on your own emotional investment. They use our when I say they, I mean like the freaking puppet masters, which who knows who they are.
It could really anybody who wants to be in power over somebody else.
Any of them, right?
And they can do that.
They use our humanity against us because they have none.
Right.
I truly believe that. I believe that these people have no humanity in them. They don't care. People are not people. They're just objects. But we as humans actually have that humanity, and we see people as more than objects, and they use that against us. I 100% believe that.
I agree. I would agree with that. And it's like the only way is to realize that. It's like, okay, that's not how things are. I have to reframe it for my own reality, right?
That's right.
I have to step away from the narrative that's being framed for me and do the legwork and see that, like you said, look at all the good that people are doing. Do I really have a problem with that religion? Not really. And I don't have a problem with these people? Not really. It's all been spoon-fed to me.
It's the idea of good versus bad. We'll end on this, but
is there evil in the world?
That's where I'm getting. So you have good and you have evil. And evil exists, and not only does it exist, but you don't negotiate with it.
You don't.
You stomp it out immediately, or you bury it as deep and as dark as you possibly can. Yeah. And you go the opposite direction of evil.
Right.
Because there's nothing you can get to with evil. Once it's evil, it's evil. That's my opinion.
Yep. It's no fixing it.
But then the good, dude, the good is all of us. Yeah. And what has happened is the powers that be have gotten so good, whether you want to call that the devil, adversary, you want to call it people, you want to call it corruption, whatever label you want to put on the energy or the people or whatever it is that is making us believe this, they have gotten so good at making us think that we, the good, are our enemies, and that our neighbor is the evil, when in reality, this is evil, we're the good. And they've done such a good job of not making us realize that if we just stop fighting with each other, we would actually be able to see the evil and fight against the evil together.
Right.
And that's the message, right? It's unite the good, and that's all of us.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, man, might actually have a fighting chance.
We might actually have a fighting chance.
But
it's like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
We can all get on a mat together.
Well, you're gonna have to
grow together,
dude. I'm gonna come by, and we're gonna have to continue this conversation. But Isaac, it's been awesome, man. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
Thank you for coming
Absolute
on.
Privilege.
Yeah, this is great. I'll tell Lane he was wrong. I was just kidding. All right, man. I appreciate you. Oh, actually, I mean, do you have a lot of social media or anything like that?
I do. I have one for the school. It's PAC Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay, yeah. So how can people find you? How can they support you?
PAC Jiu-Jitsu. That's PAC Jiu-Jitsu.
Say that one more time.
So it's at PAC Jiu-Jitsu. It's PAC Jiu-Jitsu. And there's a website. There's an Instagram, Facebook, of course. Facebook's bigger in Rexburg. But
So a lot of these people won't be local, but if they're not local, can they still support you somehow?
Absolutely. They can kick us a follow. If you're in an area and you're like, I don't know where to train, I'd really love to start jiu-jitsu. I'd really love this to make my life better, but you don't know where to train. I literally have friends all over the world. Shoot us a message. I will help you find a spot to train at. I will answer any questions you have and help you find a spot to train. Because if I can help you in your jiu-jitsu journey and have it help your life the way it's helped mine, let's do that.
Awesome. I love it. Isaac, thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
We'll see you. See you guys. Thanks.